shadows got power, Florabella stands tall. Every drip, every drop, watch the haters fall. Channel sharp as thorns, ain't taking no mess. Scroll through her feed, feel that queen's finesse. Vines tangle tight, but Flora breaks free. Roots so deep, can't mess with her tree. From the mud she rises, roses from the dirt. Every comment section she lays down hurt. Flora's anthem, blooming under pressure. Resilient, resolving, no lesser. Florabella's reign strong and relentless. Beauty in battle, queen sure defenseless. From the garden green to the concrete wall, Florabella, unstoppable nature's child. Leaves whisper secrets, she's the loudest shout. From the channel buzzing, she never backs out. Seed of strength, through seasons she grows. In the face of doubt, her spirit glows. Cameras ain't a limit, she branches out. Thorns in her crown, she wears it no doubt. Flora's anthem, blooming under pressure. Resilient, resolving, no lesser. Florabella's reign strong and relentless. Beauty in battle, queen sure defenseless. Flora's anthem, blooming under pressure. Resilient, resolving, no lesser. Florabella's reign strong and relentless. Beauty in battle, queen sure defenseless.
Slick shades on, leather coat tight. Moving through shadows under neon light. Whisper clues in the velvet air. Every step's a rhythm, every glance a dare. Cold case files in a gold-plated ride. Smoke rings rise as the truth unties. Diamonds and dust, we follow the trail. Silk tie, justice never fair. Midnight's losing a hip-hop haze. Solving the game in a smooth R&B maze. No crime too slick, no clue too small. We catch 'em all with a swipe protocol. Eyes like scanners, touch like silk. Breathe the streets like a glass of milk. Fingerprints hung in a baseline low. Every suspect's got a place to go. Bench floors with his bartender, no secrets spill with a jasmine blow. Money talks, but the cups don't lie. Another case filed under the sky. Midnight's losing a hip-hop haze. Solving a game in a smooth R&B maze. No crowd too slick, no clue too small. We catch 'em all with a swipe protocol.
All right. Let me the music down. I guess we keep it kind of in the background, just to have a little bit of background noise. Sometimes it's difficult when there's like the crickets in the background. So I guess we'll kind of get started here. And I wanted to come back and do this because I think when I was talking about Ashley Jenae and her case last week, I don't think everything that I wanted to get out about the messaging, about her case, about the conversation surrounding her death, and all the other topics that have kind of flooded in because of it. And so I wanted to come back and kind of weave that in with a couple of other topics, or a couple of other stories, I should say, because we really are going to be on one topic today. And that one topic today is femicide, how that relates to some of the rhetoric that you hear in these spaces. Now, most of you who are familiar with, um, the online spaces, there are greater, large, mainstream spaces, and then there are niche spaces, and within these niche spaces, a lot of different conversations are happening, and I don't like any of them as they relate to Ashley Jenae. And so I wanted to come circle back on that. But then also there's a couple of other conversations that just aren't even happening that is bothering me as well. I think when Ashley passed, I thought, wow, okay, so people are really seeing things. We're talking, we're getting into what's happening to Black people. And then I saw that it was being twisted and turned in every which way besides the way that it should have been talked about, which is an act of DV violence, IPV violence, that type of thing. All right, so I do want to come back and talk about some cases because, there's no time like the present to actually address the issues with the conversations that are happening online and the things that people become very radio silent about. So I did want to start back with actually this kind of rhetoric started being spilled online was with the death of popular influencer Ashley Jenae. And so when she passed, a lot of people kind of use her story for their own benefit. And when I get to sharing the videos that I'm going to be talking about today, you'll see exactly what I'm talking about when I say that. Because I do think people have decided to take her story and what happened to her and kind of flip it into a narrative that they've always had, right? It has nothing to do with her case, has nothing to do with the IB is IPB in the Black community. It's specifically used as a talking point and as a way to like, see, we told you about those white men, and so that needs to be addressed. So let's get into it. The first perpetrator of Dust is Godfrey. All right, let's get started.
Reporting live from my Club in Atlanta, Fight Plus News, I'm Jenae. On Monday, we reported the story of online influencer and model Ashley Jenae, whose real name is Ashley Robinson, mysteriously passing while traveling in Africa with a boyfriend of over a year, Bitcoin investor Joe McCann. Her death would come at an exciting time in her life, which was her 31st birthday, and even a proposal by McCann during her time in Tanzania. So when online reports started circulating that McCann may have suggested that Robinson killed herself, many began calling out that claim. In fact, several users online have went on to say that her fiance more than likely is behind her death, which caused many to consider how race plays into this story. Comedian Godfrey has now...
So I'm just gonna stop there. I don't know who the owner of this channel is, but I'm gonna say this. This case did not cause anybody to look at how race plays into anything, right? The only people who are talking about race as it relates to Ashley Jenae is the Dustosphere, right? It's the Chitlin circuit, the same place where you hear the most vile rhetoric towards Black women, towards Black children, towards the Black family, kind of a whole destructive space full of dust that most people don't even frequent, right? It is a niche space, but they're the ones who are mainly taking her death and spinning it into a conversation about interracial dating. And I'll show you how that conversation about race and her relationship is only happening in these spaces based off of a news article that I believe I shared maybe part of it in my last stream, but if not, I'm going to share the whole thing today. And that's where they're talking about how her death was kind of being perverted into this conversation about why dating white men is not a good thing. And, sometimes when you listen to these videos, they sound so sure of their perspective and how it's so mainstream and this is what everyone thinks, but it really isn't. Right, it really isn't how most people are looking at it. Even on the tweets that he showed you, nobody said anything about race. Most of it was like, why would she do this on the best day of her life? This was her dream vacation. Everything points to suspicion. People are talking about the case and the details of the case, but there are people who are taking her narrative and they're spinning it into a conversation about why, or perhaps what Black women get when they start dating out, right? Especially the divestors, because that's what they call her specifically, and that's what they're saying about her now that she's passed. But let's continue.
Taken to Instagram to share how he too believes that McCann is behind Robinson's death, and that he honestly is happy it wasn't a black man who may have did this.
So I don't know if you heard about this black girl who was dating this white man who looked like a skinhead. She was found dead in the hotel room.
So just in the first few sentences, and you really have to pay attention to the language that's used, right? Some of these people, they'll act like they're speaking about this in like an advocacy way, like, oh, we need justice, we need the truth, we need to find out what really happened to this black woman. And like any other time that a black woman is killed, and we know 9 times out of 10 who is really killing black women. Any other time that a black woman is killed, you don't hear the same advocacy. But notice the language that he used. This black girl, mind you, she's a 31-year-old woman. This black girl was killed by a white guy. It's not even about her death. It's not about IPV. It's not about intimate partner violence. It's not about the fact that 9 times out of 10, when a woman is deleted, it is by her partner, right? The person who sleeps with her at night, person who knows her, the person who has the most access to her. It's not a stranger in the night. It's not it's not a white supremacist writing in on, and this is not to say that those type of crimes don't happen, but 9 times out of 10, when a black woman specifically is killed, it's definitely not someone riding in on a horse with a hood, with a white hood. But this is how they're spinning her death. They're not even talking about her. This is just meant to be used as like an example. And it's the same thing they did with Lauren Smith Fields. Same thing, right? Everyone else was like, oh, this woman, she passed away in his house suspiciously. She just he woke up and she passed away. We don't know why. She was on a date with him, XYZ. That's what everyone was talking about. While they're like, oh, see what happens? She was dating a white guy. Blah, blah, blah. And to my knowledge, there's not even any tweets or any messages online that she put saying that she doesn't like black men or anything like that. Not that I know of about Lauren Smith Fields, and they still use her death that way. So just pay attention to the language that you hear from most of these dudes when they're taking the stories of black women and they're using it to send a message about, or a message to other women who choose to date out.
Hanging. My boyfriend decides to report it weeks after she dies. And they show a video of them, being cute, racial.
That's not true either. It was not reported weeks after she died. It was reported 11 hours later. But again, the details of this crime don't really matter. It's not about the fact that she passed away under suspicious circumstances. It's the fact that she's a black woman and the person who killed her was white, right? You could tell very clearly because he doesn't even care about the details of the case.
Cute, dumb videos that people do. So he doesn't know how it happened. It's disgusting and fucked up that she had to suffer this, and her family. My thing is I'm glad it's not a black dude, because black men get so much bad and negative stereotypes. Bad people come in all races, but for some reason black men just get they're the fucking worst. Just the worst. But then people go to the other side and the same happens. I'm really happy that it wasn't a black man. When it's other races, non-black men that do this fucked up shit, I go, finally, some relief. And I feel bad for this woman and her family. And I believe that this bald-headed, thumb-looking son of a bitch did it.
Now, Godfrey wouldn't, of course, be the only celebrity who has now spoken out. In his Instagram comments, actor Darius McCrary would jump in and post a meme of Shannon Sharp making a gesture of,
and let's say celebrity is being used very loosely here. Godfrey is a social media personality. He's a comedian. But again, from the sound of it, this channel is being run by a Dusty himself. All right, a polished Dusty, but a Dusty nonetheless.
Not believing someone as his response. And over on X, rapper Cardi B would even share her thoughts by saying that girl did not off herself. For many, they find it hard to believe that Robinson would do something like that because her life appeared to be going so well. On Instagram, one user would write, suicide on a luxury birthday trip while surprisingly getting engaged? Yeah, okay. One of Ashley's friends would even be one of the first to call out her suspicious passing. We need justice for my friend Ashley Jenae, who was found dead in her hotel in Tanzania, and her fiance Joe McCann claims she hung herself. Anyone who knows Ash knows she would never commit suicide. We need answers now. According to TMZ, local police would share that Jenae and McCann would have a dispute before her passing, and things got so bad that the two had to be placed in separate rooms. According to North Unguja Regional Police Commander Benedict Mapujira, the couple had a falling out at the luxury resort Zuri Zanzibar, with hotel staff stepping in and separating them in different rooms. According to a local news outlet, they would report that Ashley died by suicide. But since this earlier report, her family has begun to push back by suggesting that her death is suspicious for several reasons. Ashley's parents would first reveal that they didn't find out that she was taken to the hospital until 11 hours later after they received a call from McCann. And according to them, McCann wouldn't even notify them that their daughter.
I find it interesting too, like there's something weird about the fact that somebody would cover this story and edit out her two step parents, right? Not only does she have her mom and dad, but both of her parents remarried, right? Her mom is married to a white man and her dad remarried a black woman, right? But for some reason, this creator here, which I'm gonna leave it at that, edited out just to show her biological parents. Strange nonetheless, but the framing is still there, right? At least this one, there wasn't too much of his own language that spoke about the dynamic specifically being between black women and white men. But notice he shared Godfrey's video. So he's not saying it himself, but he's agreeing with the message that Godfrey had, which is that black men get this rap of being the most violent and dangerous and XYZ, but look, this white man killed his girlfriend, and she just happened to be black.
Had passed, as they would later find out from hotel staff.
I was initially contacted by him to let me know that something had occurred and that she was in the hospital, but it was very limited communication and not with a lot of detail. I asked him, when it happened, where it happened, and he told me that something had occurred 11 hours prior to when he was reaching out to me.
We found out that our daughter had passed from the hotel. The fiance did not reach out to us at all.
In a separate interview, her mother would confirm that Ashley called her and let her know that she and Joe had gotten to an argument and were placed in separate rooms. The next day, her mother would then get a call from Joe. He told me that Ashley did something to herself and she was taken to the hospital. Her parents have confirmed that an active investigation has begun, and their next step is to getting out to Tanzania themselves to gain further transparency. According to a hospital medical report, Ashley did have an unidentified mark around her neck, and that report would also go on to state that according to Joe, he found that she hung herself on the door. Now, according to Ashley's dad, Joe with security would allegedly go back and forth to check on her, and that's how Joe found her unconscious body. Now, in a report from Philadelphia 6 ABC News, the medical report would list her cause of death as cerebral hypoxia by strangulation and suffocation. Let's talk about it more in the comments below. Do you believe that her fiance was behind?
So the focus being on she was deleted, she was strangled, which is what one of the autopsies is saying, and it was by her white boyfriend. All right, because they were engaged, but they weren't together yet. So when I see that this video that I just showed you guys was like the least egregious that I've seen, I'm being serious, right? The language that was used there, how it was actually described, besides what Godfrey said, was fairly just focused on the case, which is a good way to kind of report. So I won't fault that one too much. Now I want to move on to a video shared by Inside Daniel. And it's a very short, it's a short, but it's very short as well. And I wanted to share this because I think even how he speaks and how he uses his platform as well is a major issue, right? He is one that I think spends a lot of time talking about Black women, and the imagery is not good, right? He has followed in the footsteps of those of the kitten heels era and the kitten heels mindset, and he has specifically used his platform to talk about Black women as being a problem, right? So the way they communicate, the way they speak, their opinions, their lifestyle, the fact that they have children, XYZ, right? He spends a lot of time talking about black women in such a negative light. And so I felt his opinion and how he tries to spin these types of stories is very important as well, because he's going to talk about this in like a, oh, cautionary tale, boyfriend did it. But as someone shared a couple nights ago, he actually did a live stream, and on that live stream he was trying to imply himself that Ashley might have taken her life, versus what we all know, which is that this appears to be something where he was using his influence to manipulate the hotel, and he somehow got to her and ended her life. All right, so let's hear what he has to say about this as one of the top Dusties talking about black women.
To a white man. And with the Ashley Jenae case, a lot of people are saying it has nothing to do with race. Race doesn't matter. Race doesn't matter. Race always fucking matters. You're talking about, politically speaking, someone who has the most power in the American and really global social structure, and someone who may have the...
You know what annoys me about Anton too? He claims to be this conservative, but from how this woman in the video sounds, she doesn't sound like a conservative, right? Most people, if this was any other discussion, they would be saying, oh, she's a liberal, this. And I don't know what Anton's going to say yet. But most of the times he would shut down this type of thinking, right? He would say, oh, this is a democratic crazy woman, and she doesn't know anything, and she's just stuck in the past. Everything isn't about race. That's how he would usually regard someone who's speaking like this. But notice now he wants to highlight what she's saying.
Least amount of power in the global structure. There's the intersection of gender, her being a female, him being a male, as well as the intersection of race. And yes, I got away. A lot of people don't get the chance to get away. And what happened? I'll say this, you guys. What happened to me would not have been able to happen in the way that it happened and in the manner that it happened if he was a black man. The fact that he was a white man, he had power and was able to walk into rooms and police officers and do things that if he was a black man, they would have laughed at him and told him to go get the fuck home. So absolutely, race matters, power matters, income, tax bracket.
I don't know why it's always unambiguous black women that have to take on this, oh, everybody views black men as the threat. They don't get the luxury that white men do. Black men, everybody don't like them, and just, why is it always black? Why is it always unambiguous black women who take on this cape? Always want to be the soldier for the community. You know, this video, I'm going to show you so many examples of men using their voice online to instead muddy up the waters in terms of the conversation related to deaths related to black women. That's what they do with their voice. But she's on here talking about race matters in this case. Let's talk about race. Race matters. It's irritating. Like, why can't we just talk about the fact that this is somebody who was in a romantic relationship? And we know that these situations can be very dangerous. 9 times out of 10. I'm not saying every relationship is dangerous, but I'm telling you that when you are in danger, 9 times out of 10, it's not a stranger. Most homicides and things like that, they're not committed by people that are just running across you in the street. They're mostly committed by people you know. Somebody who knows you, who has a motive, who doesn't want you around for a reason. But she's sitting here, oh, race. No, this is about a relationship that went bad. They probably were fighting. Like, a man doesn't just go from you have arguments to one of you guys ends up dead. A relationship doesn't just go that quickly. They obviously have been having conflict. This is about safety in relationships. This is about people not being able to just walk away, maybe feeling like people are possessions. I hear people talking about money, who spent money on this trip. It's not about that. It's about possession. These dynamics, these intimate relationship dynamics that become violent, they're usually about power and exercising it. Exercising control. So I hate that this is becoming a race thing, and this is not becoming just a, this is what happens in relationships when you don't really know somebody, right? When somebody can quickly become dangerous to you. And instead of you just, brushing off all the arguments, all the red flags that you might see as romantic, maybe the controlling, we'll never know because she's gone now. But we don't know if there was flags already, the controlling, the possessiveness, maybe telling her what to wear, maybe being domineering. We don't know what it was like to live with him, right? Only she knows that. And now she's gone and we only have one side of the picture. That's what this is about. I hate that this is turning into black woman killed by a white man. This is about a relationship that went sour. That's what this is all saying. There was a big fight and then somebody ends up dead. This is not just about a white man using his power over a black woman. And I think that is strategically why that other video clipped out that moment where it was the two sets of parents. The dad who remarried a black woman and her mom who had been married for decades to her white husband. Right? Because you can't say that white men are dangerous if her mom is married to one and that's a stable and safe relationship. Right? You can't play that racial politic game if that's the dynamic that was actually her life. All right, let's continue.
Bracket, class level, all of it always matters, okay? And I'm not against mixed race dating or multicultural dating or families at all whatsoever, but I will say if you are a black woman, if you are a brown woman, if you are a Latino woman, if you are a Native woman, be extremely cautious when it comes to dating white men. The level of caution that a lot of people are saying, you need to take the same caution with all men, lies. You need to take an extra level of caution when they are white.
Yo, listen. These women are looking for any reason and any excuse to villainize anybody that pops up on social media, goes viral in the news, or if it's a situation, right? It's been a rough week for women. As of the recording of this video, you got Justin Fairfax, who just so happened to be a black lieutenant governor that killed his wife. You have, obviously, the Ashley.
Oh, so he just so happened to be black. He just so happened to be black. And notice how that's actually contradictory to what she's saying, right? Because she's saying this is about race and white men using their power, especially over women. He's saying, stop blaming everything on white men. But also, I understand why she's sensitive, because some black guy also killed his wife this week too. Right? He just happened to be black. Even he's able to separate race here. I actually thought he was going to go in a different direction and be like, yes, well, you guys want to praise these men. But actually, he's even saying, first of all, stop blaming white men. And also, a black man killed his wife too. And it's sad that he has to come in and say it's not about race here, when he's usually actually one that speaks negatively about black women, divestors, and this idea that they can go out into another race and find a better man above black men, right? That's what he's always talking about. He has millions of videos talking about that. And even he's able to separate what she's saying here. I wish he would just focus on rape. I wish he would just focus on intimate partner violence instead of jump into this and bring it, oh, it's about white men and their power. No, this is about men and how they act in relationships, how violent they can become. I'm sorry to say that, man. You guys could be mad and be like, oh, why are we talking about men? 9 times out of 10, people who are being deleted by their partner, they're women. When the stats get smaller, when we can say the stats are 50-50, okay, you guys can come in here and start playing Karen. But the reality is that women in relationships can be in great danger. Right? They can be in great danger. That could be the most dangerous time. Let them get pregnant. Oh, Lord, the danger skyrockets through the roof. But we're not even having a conversation about dating violence, right? And he specifically wanted to throw in that conversation about a black man killing his wife, right? Because he's not going to talk about it any other time, right? So let me throw it in this video where a black woman is trying to make it, all about white men and their power over black women and the society at large.
Jenae girl, who everybody is talking about, and they don't even know whether or not he is the culprit. But of course, we're going to all raise is guilty until proven innocent, and they don't want to let the investigation play out. But he's going to be guilty because allegedly they got into an argument, so on and so forth. You got the David Singer with the Celeste Rivas girl, the underage girl that wound up being in his trunk, and he wound up getting arrested for that. So I will admit it's been a very difficult week for women. However, nothing is more important.
It's been a difficult week for women. So when a young girl dies and we find out that it has to do with the predator, that's only a difficult week for women. You're comfortable living in a world with a daughter where things like this are happening so frequently. And now he's about to switch it to a topic about men likely. So let's hear his last few words in this dusty little rant of his.
To people, and I said this on a panel last night, nothing is more important to black people than white people. And I've never, ever, they align politically based off of race. They align, even when you say, okay, well, I want to date white men because black men I don't necessarily care for, and I don't care who you date. But then it becomes a race issue if you see a situation where you don't necessarily care for how the situation turned out. It's not an individual character problem. It's a white person problem.
Black American woman that was married to a white man.
That was a shitty take. He has nothing of value to say, right? I have the same belief. I really think he should just stop talking forever. But let's move on, all right? So I wanted to talk a little bit about some pages, and I wanted to thank the channel. Let me pull his channel up really quick because he kind of broke these down. Sometimes when I see stuff on YouTube, I'm like, you know what? Let me go and actually go look at everything and see what's out there. Like sometimes people just clip things and they try to make it look bad. But I said, let me go look a little bit further. But I wanted to thank the channel of, let me just remove this ashy dust mite from here, Foreign Fridays, because he actually put together some different accounts on Twitter that also put out some really nasty messages about Ashley Jenae's case and black women in general, right? Like I think their pages are kind of troll accounts. Like I want to see the Dusty who runs some of these channels because like some of the stuff that they post on here is really just nasty and insensitive. So I'm gonna start off by sharing this channel here. But let me thank you for your comment, DOD. He says Anton generalizes black people all the time. He does, and notice how like when he talks about white people, he gives them the benefit of the doubt. But when he talks about black people, he just is very quick to indict them, and it's giving reject, right? It's giving that like black people never liked him because he was a weirdo, and now he's really mad about that. So I won't take how he acts too personally, but he has a bias against black people for sure. You can tell with how he speaks about them. So, all right, and that's coming from a man who apparently comes from a two-parent household, right? Like very, very dusty of him. So, all right, let's move on here. And I wanted to share the Twitter. So you guys could all, for yourselves, also go and look at this channel if you wanted to. So I'm going to go ahead or not this channel, this page on Twitter if you wanted to. Right? When black women talk about the black manosphere, the Dustosphere, and all these different places where black men huddle together and speak negatively about the community and black women, that people think we're just kind of speaking and just personalizing or being very like bitter, angry. We know that's what people love to say, but these are channels. I mean, these are pages. These are pages run by people. This Twitter account has 33.1 thousand followers, right? So they have a decent following here. Even if people don't interact with these pages, you got to understand that people know that likes are saved and things like that on X, Twitter exactly. So they know how to move now, but keep in mind that people are paying attention to these channels, and they might not like or repost or interact that much with these channels, but they definitely follow them. They take in the messaging daily, and they have the hatred inside for them, for people on these channels that they're festering. All right, so this is Reclaim D1, and I shared his channel in the chat just so people can go there and click for themselves and not think that I'm just on here trying to have the dusty little convo about bandits because that's my desire to talk about bandits. No, there's real life examples on across several platforms of these dusties and how they talk about women, how they talk about the community. And so I wanted to start with this one because this was one that was shared on Foreign Friday's page. And so Reclaim D1, this is, first of all, this is the thumbnail, right? Very insensitive. He got her picture here of her in one of her pictures that was on Instagram. He has Joe here. He's edited the picture to put this white mask on him, right? Kind of implying that he's some white supremacist, right? And then he has this rope here. And then he has this very corny attitude here where he shows this black man with dreadlocks and a crown, and this is supposed to be some black king, right? You guys can see that here. And notice what is in the little bubbles here, right? In the little bubbles of this, let me just zoom in here. I think you guys should be able to see it now. But in her bubble, it says soft life, hard afterlife, right? And then it says asphyxiation fetish. Black female influencer Jenae death ruled suicide after found unresponsive by white boyfriend in Tanzania. First of all, if you guys haven't paid attention, and I don't think these channels do pay attention because it's not their prerogative, this death is right, so it hasn't been ruled anything. Autopsies are just now being done. There's actually some reports out there that are saying that there was asphyxiation involved in this. So this is actually more of a strangulation versus a what they initially thought was a self-deletion. Okay. Next here on his channel, right, he just kind of plays into these stereotypes about black men and pilots and how great they are, right? He has this really cringy video, which I'm going to
Star eating 2 Brazil nuts a day. They're loaded with selenium.
Where he said he claims to have the recipe to create BBCs. What do you think? Would you hire her as your nutritionist? So, I mean, that's peak incel, right? So you're trying to figure out what diet you need so that your peen can grow. I mean, that's sad. That's sad. That's pathetic. That's lame. That's embarrassing. But this is what these type of channels share, right? These type of channels that talk about black women and use their image, right? Now he's sharing a video about Cardi B. Mind you, Cardi B was cheated on Offset with hundreds of women probably. And he says here, bro is digging her guts out with no commitment and is simultaneously dealing with other women. Off-Cheat did the same thing. She had a family and child with him. He cheated on her the entire time. He also had children prior to. What's the difference between sharing Stefan Diggs and sharing Offset? She's still sharing, right? So what you just highlighted, my friend, is that it doesn't matter who the black man was. Both of the Dusties that she chose were giving her hell. Okay? So either that means that she doesn't know how to choose, or that's all that was available. Okay? I wanted to keep looking here because he doesn't just talk about weird stuff like this. He talks about weird fetishizations as well, right? So a lot of these Dusties really talk disgusting about black women and how they fetishize black men, but look at him, right? He's asking them, which one do you want? The white guy or whoever puts here, yeah, he rates none because they all sleep with you, Dusties, is really what he's saying here. And he said, wow, these dudes really need some help. And he's giving himself a crown, right? So notice that his self-hatred and his imagery of himself is based off of his phallus. Okay, now he's over here talking about these guys. Here's a photo of Ashley St. Clair's ex-man. So we know this is an incel page. He gave her a child in the traditional Christian nuclear family they say they longed for, yet that wasn't enough to satisfy her lust for more notoriety, fame, and fortune. Hypergamy is the real reason why dating doesn't work in 2025. Now, that is a dog whistle if I ever heard one, right? That is a manosphere bandit talking point dog whistle. That's the words that they use. Then he goes into some rant about her college days and Nick Fuentes. And now here you go. How long before Cardi B sees these tweets and threatens to get me deleted, drugged, or robbed? She doesn't have to do that, right? She'll probably find a willing participant. But this is his stuff. Now he's talking about Cocology 1008. Notice again the focus being on sex and all these weird degenerate topics. What does this tell you about the pathology of these young men here? Right? I don't get it, man. They're low IQ, tarnished society, can't build anything, only good at sports, and yet I see endless TikToks of the prettiest girls with these mindless thugs. What do these guys have that I don't? Now, he's sharing this, but this probably isn't even a real page, right? This page is probably the page of a Dusty. Look at what he's worshiping. Now, I would caution, I would ask the mothers of these young boys what is going on in their homes that is causing this. Right? There's only what, 2 of them that are redeemable, 3. The rest of them are we need to ask their parents what's causing this. Right? Because these teenagers' prom photo is being used to put out a message by these Dusties. This is the imagery that they fall onto. Trump is following the bro code. Don't dap your homies, girls. So this guy just happens to be a Trump supporter. I mean, they fit all the same. They all check the same boxes. It's really disturbing. Now, I wanted to share another Twitter account. This one, the account is called Embrace the Truth. And I wanted to share this one as well because he does kind of the same incel, bandit, manosphere kind of mindset as well, right? And in this one, let me just switch the perspective so you can see the page. He talks a lot about this case here, right? He says he's highlighting these different tweets. So now, besides the bullet bag one, okay, this is just young girls ranting about relationships, right? So he shares here. She says, "Black dudes are an effing disgrace to mankind." Okay. There's another one. White men are greater than pigeons. Pigeons are. I'm not gonna read the rest of that. The bullet bag joint is fire. Okay. It's a good thing cops kill you guys because we wouldn't have another way to get you guys out of the U.S. I get stopped by cops and they give me warnings every time. Wow. So he's sharing some channels, some pages here, which keep in mind, right? These are very niche. The majority of Black women online aren't saying these things, but to make his point, he's going to grab onto those messages. Hold on, let me pull up the page again because I lost where I was at. I was just laughing at the one comparing them to pigeons, dogs. Pigeons, dogs, and all the types of animals. That's funny. The girls are really playing on Twitter. The lead year history, guys. All right, so he shares this here and he says, "This is not a diss, just a real song. The community is currently a burning house and has been burning for the last 4 generations. All you can do is save yourself, right? SYSPM, save yourself, Black men. Because those we once called sisters are quickly turning on you. We the sisters are turning on Black men. Okay. All right. Black women, as soon as they see a Black man happy with a non-Black woman. Okay, look at this. What's the fixation? How many messy photos could we find like this of Black men doing this stuff? But it's the hyper focus on it, you know? It's the hyper focus. And then he puts it here. This is the family friendly comment we're supposed to see on this trend. Light skinned girl attempting a flip but falling backwards because of her traditional big forehead was fighting gravity and won. Is greater than twerking and fighting. Just a weird thing, right? And then his focus on her light skin. Was that what she even tagged in her page? No, but he's just fixated on skin color. And then he puts up Viola Davis here. Viola, typical black woman interaction with a black man doing well for himself. Right? So his perspective is that black women are always hating on the black man who's doing good for himself. They always hating. Okay, and he says Viola Davis admits she was judgmental about Chadwick Boseman before learning he was dying of cancer. Okay, that doesn't really mean anything. White men are the black women of Western men. I don't know what this means, but let's.
I don't mean to be a
The angels up in the clouds are jealous when we found
I don't mean to be a bad influence, but we met in the club and now we're a family of 13. Look at this fucking science experiment they got going. Oh my god. I don't know if I approve. Can we get white couples to do this, please?
Again, we know there are anti-black pages out there. We know there are pages out here that talk about interracial relationships, but this is not the norm. I mean, you'll see this if you're looking for it. If you go online and you look for pages that talk about interracial dating and black men with white women, sure, you can go out and find them. But he's going to go look at some anti-woman, angry patriot, high-value alpha male. So he knows what he's going to do when he goes to look at these pages. And that's what he's sharing here. To say white men are the black women of Western men. What does that mean? That we're both jealous of black men and white women? Is that what he's trying to say? Very weird messaging. Wasn't just on here saying white men need to do better to guard their women from black men. Never ask a white supremacist the race of his girlfriend. Arthur No Lee. What does this woman and this Asian man have to do? What does this have to do with anything? I mean, at this point, he's just kind of being, right, the interracial dating police. I don't know who this guy is. You guys tell me in the comment section. Is he a white supremacist? He looks like an Asian man. He looks like an Asian man, but white man and black women. Race mixing is bad. Black men with white women.
Oh man. Oh man.
It's like he just views his life through being this big, gigantic BBC. He doesn't even have a personality. He doesn't have nothing. He's just a black dick. That's all he talks about. Sex, interracial dating, interracial relationships. White men are jealous of him. Black women are jealous of him. White men and black women are the same. That's all his page is about. Black feminists, white men, hating black men. Look, hey, he's implying that black feminists are the friends of white supremacists. The group that least voted for Donald Trump. They're supposedly the friends of white supremacists. Just a very bizarre take on life. I mean, I don't even know what he's trying to imply here. But there's people that agree with this, and maybe they won't comment or share. They like it for sure, but they won't say it themselves. I mean, this is very disturbing. More fetishization. Nick's wives and girlfriends on the court after the series win. Men are shocked that there aren't any 9s and 10s. That's because 9s and 10s are community property. Everybody finds their wives between the ranges of 5s and 8s. I don't even know what he's talking about. He just shit, like his whole thing is just weird.
But what I love most is when the guy is white and when the girl. I love interracial relationships, but what I love most is when the guy is white and when the girl is black. That combination, I don't know what it is, but chef's kiss. Like, the girl is always like beautiful and black, and it just literally brings the guy's level up to here, literally, just by their skin complexion, just by being black. They automatically, yeah, like this.
And you all know what she's talking about, right? We know a lot of the times when we do see them swirling, unless they're celebrities or men with money, we know what the girls look like. We know what the couple looks like. It's a big back whale and a dude with his arm around her waist while she swipes her card. We know. You know, the women who go to Jamaica and pick a husband out of there. All right, so besides those of us who are aware on social media, who are paying attention to everything that's going on, mainstream media has also as well. Now, I am going to go into the video from Foreign Fridays, and I'm going to show you how he got a lot of evidence of different channels and different people talking about this case and making it a racial topic. I'm going to go back into that. But I wanted to go over this article from Newsweek that I'm not sure we got to go over all of it, but I did want to go over it again because they specifically talk about how the conversation about Ashley's death has specifically shifted online, right? It's not that the media sees this case differently than what it is, right? A suspicious death that happened overseas, a woman who died under suspicious circumstances, a criminal justice system that's very different than the United States. Okay, so in here we talk about the details are still coming into focus, but here's what we know so far. So Ashley Robinson, a 31-year-old influencer, excuse me, let me just pull that up, who went by Ashley Jenae, died while on vacation in Zanzibar. She has been traveling with her fiance Joe McCain, and in the days leading up to her death, her social media showed what looked like a celebration, a birthday, an engagement, a trip that at least publicly appeared joyful. Then something shifted. Reports indicate that the couple had a serious argument, were placed in separate rooms by the hotel staff, and hours later, she was found unresponsive in her room. So anybody with a brain is going to look at this case and say, a couple is on a dream vacation, everything looks happy, she gets proposed to, she's in the place of her dreams, right? She's always talked about going to Tanzania. So this was, by all intents and purposes, the dream trip for her. And now we're being told that she supposedly took her own life after having had a heated argument that required that she be separated from her partner. All right. After that, there was a story told to her parents that she took her own life. And since then, people have been trying to figure out the truth about what happened. It's still not true. But regardless of the fact that we don't know all the details, that the investigation is still pending, that none of the evidence in this case has actually come out, like surveillance footage or witness testimony or anything else that was happening actually in Tanzania, this story has taken on a life of its own. So this is what the article is saying here. Within hours, the story stopped being about a woman who died under unclear circumstances and unclear and troubling circumstances. It became something entirely different. A referendum on interracial dating, Black women and loyalty, anti-Blackness, and on who deserves sympathy and who does not. There's an unspoken calculus happening online right now. There's a penalty for loving outside the race, and if the worst happens, you treat it like a consequence instead of a tragedy. If you spent any time online since the news broke, you've seen the shift. Old photos resurfaces, screenshots, some verified, many not, began circulating. And we know, guys, if we go and look at what the screenshots that these men are referencing a lot of the times, they're not talking about anything that's like, oh, Black men are this or they're evil. It's really just saying like that she chose to date out. She's not going to date Black men. She's not going to deal with Black men. She didn't really speak about the race like that. It was just about her dating choices and how Black men act in dating. And she has every right to have that opinion, right? But they're using that to change how we're supposed to feel about that. People started making claims about her dating history, her alleged preferences, and her supposed statements about black men. And just like that, Jenae was no longer a person at the center of an ongoing investigation. She became a symbol, a lesson, and a warning. For some, the narrative shifted quickly into this is what happens when black men choose whiteness and speak negatively about black men. For others, the response was immediate defense. How dare anyone bring up her past, real or imagined, when she just died? Both reaction understandable, but neither is sufficient because what we are witnessing is not just discourse, but a whole lot of projection. And I think the projection is real, right? I think even some men are taking their experiences with being rejected by some women. Maybe some women who have the same ideology as Ashley, or maybe they didn't even have the ideology of dating out. Maybe they just wanted men with money who provided a soft life, who was going to give them everything they wanted and not question it, right? I think some of how people feel about her life also has to do with that. So there is a troubling dynamic that many black people, which is the phenomenon of some black folks who enter interracial relationships and then perform anti-blackness as a kind of social currency or upgrade. But in my opinion, guys, I don't think that's the majority of what's happening. I do think that some people who date out, they are very bizarre, and I think it comes from a hatred of self, comes from their experience. It's valid because it's their experience and they're allowed to have it. But I think it's a very small amount of people who speak that way. All right, now I wanted to go on to Foreign Friday's video because I think he touches on several online conversations that were happening. And I find it so funny. He calls them the Ashy Sphere because that really is better. That's better than Bandit Sphere, Naker Sphere, all of it. That's exactly what they are. They are the Ashy Sphere. And it's this sector of people who are just very miserable. And they turn everything into a conversation that is rooted in self-hatred and, just kind of tearing each other and the community apart. So let's get into Foreign Friday's video. If you guys want to follow him, I'm going to share his link in the not the description, in the chat box, if anyone is interested in checking him out as well, because he doesn't just talk about this case, he talks about other situations similar to this.
The Black Manosphere, aka the Negrosphere, has been showing their unwiped ass more than N64 Mario, all because a soft life influencer engaged to a palm-colored man died under suspicious circumstances, and instead of defending her, the Negrosphere is dragging her.
Zaddy unheaded another black woman.
Rest in peace to Ashley Jenae. She lost her life at the end of the day. That's still what matters. But you don't get to get on here and judge black men for not having sympathy.
Y'all just want Joe McCann to go down for something he ain't do.
There's a foreign man in a foreign land.
And notice, just like Anton, that big burly Dusty here, he said the same thing. Y'all are indicting Joe McCann and we don't even know if he did it.
That still matters, but you don't get to get on here and judge black men for not having sympathy.
Y'all just want Joe McCann to go down for something he ain't do.
There's a foreign man in a foreign land.
Right? The whole thing is about, she spoke about black men this way, so we shouldn't care about her opinion. How she felt should definitely affect how we deal with the situation and how much advocacy we give to her. The second guy, he didn't even want to entertain that Joe could have possibly been responsible for this crime here. All right, now he shares a couple of TikToks. You guys know I'm not on TikTok like that. I'm not a huge TikTok person. I personally watch a lot of videos on YouTube. I follow content on Instagram sometimes. Like, I'm more likely to watch Instagram Reels than I am to watch TikTok. So a lot of these different channels that he shares on his channel, I've never even seen them before. So let's get into it here. And I did share his channel again if you guys wanted to go and check him out here.
Ashley Jenae's fiance claims she hung herself in their hotel room during her birthday trip to Tanzania, but her family and friends do not believe him. She was reportedly found by her fiance, Joe McCann, who claims she died by hanging.
Ashley, the influencer from Miami, whose fiance says she hung herself on her birthday, and everybody says he's lying and he needs to be investigated. Trigger warning. Ashley Jenae, an IG model and soft life influencer, flew to Tanzania to celebrate her 31st birthday with her boyfriend, Joe McCann, and shortly after, she disappeared completely. According to Ashley's latest Instagram post, she was having a fabulous time in Tanzania with her boyfriend, taking glamorous pictures, spending time with animals, and even being proposed to during the trip. A week later, everybody's wondering what happened after a woman named Savannah Britt came to Twitter to share this shocking message. She wrote, "We need justice for my friend Ashley Jenae, who was found dead in her hotel in Tanzania, and her fiance, Joe McCann, claims she hung herself. And anyone who knows Ash knows she would never commit suicide. We need answers now."
Now, so what happens to a pretty faced black woman in our culture is supposed to be mad at the white man? I don't know what you're saying, but I ain't gonna lie. Like, I get a little scared when I see you all in the shot. Don't get embarrassed on my screen today. You all might have stumbled on the stream. Some of the niggas them is wake up, horny to talk bad about black women. It's not gonna happen. That's not this type of party. I want you to think about how embarrassing it is for you to wake up in the morning. You could be at work and look for things specifically pertaining to this woman of which you don't know, nor could you know. Niggas is get online. They is roll over. They is smoke a little bit of the roach that they have.
Yeah, they come online dirty, ashy, ugly, alone, sitting in a room by themselves in the dark, and they say egregious, nasty things about black women. A lot of them they don't even know. And it's like they leave those comments, they don't even care. They leave them with their face. Right? His comment there. So because she's a black woman with a pretty face, we're supposed to care because when a white man kills her? Yes. When a black man dies, doesn't matter who it is, nobody jumps up and starts saying, "Oh, well, he had a white girlfriend. Oh, his baby mom was white." Most people don't do that. And even the ones who did speak up about certain ones who had anti-black rhetoric in their past, they were still few and far between compared to the people online who spoke about them. And you still know their names because the advocacy still happened. So I think it's interesting that these pages get up here and the first thing they want to do, they have zero empathy for black women. The first thing they want to do is talk about who they were dating and if we should care. And look at the tweet. That's the one tweet they want to hold on to. Everyday black men wake up and find new ways to embarrass black women, and that's not a lie. She's not lying. There are some men, people like Anton Daniels, Tommy Sotomayor, Kevin Samuels, who that's what they did. They woke up every day and they understood that there was a profit behind speaking negatively about the community and specifically black women. Scientist says about from the FBI, approximately 16% of white victims were killed by black offenders, while 8% of black victims were killed by white offenders. Now, that data might be specifically based on proximity, but I would have to see that to believe that, especially the fact that a lot of black people have very little proximity to white people. So, yeah, I think you're going to have to prove that one with data. But let's just keep it this way. Most of the times, the person who kills you is going to look just like you. They're going to look just like you. They're going to be somebody in your neighborhood. They're going to be somebody that you know and somebody that you're acquainted with, even if you're not best friends with them. You probably know of them. So I think on both sides of the fence, there's this hyperfixation on, oh, the big bad white boogeyman. And then also, white people love to act like black people are a threat to them. No, the people who are a threat to white people are white people. You guys are very much a threat to each other. Very much. A major threat. And sometimes to other people when you have power and proximity over those people as well. But let's continue here.
Who reportedly represented the soft life, shared some questionable posts about black men and men in general. But in her latest post, she seemed to have found...
Based on her age, I'm not surprised that she's acting like a mammy like this, because at the end of the day, you should not be a black woman and be highlighting the fact that she said black women embarrass us. That's a fact. And if had she not been a black woman who passed away, I bet this same big peanut head lady would have the same opinion. She'd probably agree and be like, yeah, girl, of course, yes, you know these men. But because there's a point to be made that people want to make when it's a black woman who's with a white man and she happens to pass away, they have to take on this role. Let's continue.
Finally met a man who could give her the experiences that she wanted. Sadly, those experiences included a one-way trip to Tanzania.
This is a woman that could have easily been my cousin. It could have easily been any of the many black women in my life. And I unapologetically make a safe space for the most marginal.
And Mr. Foreign Fries, I think it's great that you feel that way, right? But I do think, unfortunately, what we see online is that most of these men do not look at black women, especially black women that they don't know online, as if they could be their sisters and their aunties and their friends and even the person they maybe married that could be black as well. That's not the narrative. And so I do think it's nice when people use their platforms this way, but it's still a problem because the majority of them do not. And you even see women have joined this because they know it's profitable to speak this way about black women and the community specifically and talk about how, oh, black women think dating white men is a good thing. But look what happened. Cautionary tale. You thought you were going to get a soft life and you ended up dead. That's happening on both sides of the spectrum. So while it's nice that there are black men who will say like, hey, black women, I see you like my sisters and da da da, that's not the majority of what's happening online.
Crime, trauma porno, where I speculate if she took her own life or if it was a white partner, if she was an escort, as if that deserves death. There will be none of that. What we're talking about today is how the black manosphere, otherwise known as the Negrosphere, has scapegoated Ashley Jenae as an avatar for gender wars. We're also going to be talking about the fate of
definitely an avatar for gender wars, and I think that's what they do with a lot of these, right? They do it with a lot of these different channels. They do it with not channels. I'm sorry, these different black women who end up in these predicaments with white men. They did it with Lauren Smith Fields. They did it with Sade Robinson, right? A lot of them didn't even want to talk about the fact that that man had a very troubling history, but she happened to be one of the people that they were concerned about his history with. But it's what a lot of them do when it comes to the deaths of black women. But you still see online the majority of the time that's not what's happening on the reverse. There isn't a reverse to the black manosphere. There might be individual pockets of black women who are divestors and who talk about how black men are this and that and how they'll get online and do this. It's still not the majority, right? Even Toby Obumseli, they talk about how black women said, "Oh, we staying out of this." A lot of black women still fought and advocated for him and spoke about his case. So while there's a lot of people that will step back based off of these beliefs and understandings that we're coming to know, most of the time it doesn't affect black women's ability to advocate for black men as a whole in the community and what they're going through. But on the reverse, it's not the case. They're very well and comfortable throwing a black woman's image under the bus, dragging her, using her for a talking point, using her for a manosphere argument. They're very comfortable with that.
To help with the mounting costs. The dad started a GoFundMe for the funeral, after which this waste of spunk up here that somehow beat all of the sperms in a tail race to the egg D1 seems to have dedicated his digital footprint to writing tweets that would.
Oh, Joy. Guys, I'm so sorry. I just realized I was muted throughout that whole time. But what I was saying here is that Reclaim D1, when I clicked on his Twitter page, this tweet where he's talking about her and calling her an escort and claiming that, she should have had money, her money should have been available for her family. They don't even have her body yet. So there's no way for them to take control of her finances and her life when they don't even have a cause of death. There's no reason why anybody would give her parents access to her bank accounts and everything without even a cause of death. That's the stupidity that some of these people online, they don't know anything. They don't come from anything, so they wouldn't even know that that's the way things go. But he chose to put this on his page. And what I was sharing, I don't know if I was still muted while I was saying it, is that when I click his Twitter page, this tweet that is being shared by Forum Fridays is no longer there. So I don't know if he deleted it or if it's just showing me pinned ones, but I'm pretty sure he deleted it because it's not on his timeline at all. But that was a tweet that he had on his page before. So I don't know. I think it's because I'm signed out, but I'm pretty sure if he would have saw Forum's video, he would have taken it down too, because that's what a lot of people are doing when people, get a load of the things that they're saying online. So let's continue.
Make Kevin Samuels himself blush. Nobody asked this man nothing, yet he volunteered this retweet on TMZ's report of Ashley's GoFundMe, saying, wait, I thought she had a social media business and was an entrepreneur. I swear, modern women have a great way of masking the fact that they're selling candy. You mean to tell me she was flying private, taking helicopter rides, driving Lambos, but doesn't have any money saved up for an emergency? This is what you call trapping backwards. The manospheric dog whistle of modern women tells me everything I need to know. It tells me that he's speaking to a specific demographic of wasteland. The tweet also tells me that he and his followers simply just hate women, which he could have just said instead of writing this whole thing right here. Because even if you ignore the fact that dying is very complicated for those left behind, even if Ashley was of the 1% of influence that make good money, her parents going through the probate process of accessing her finances can take up to years, especially with the complexity of her passing the potential.
Exactly, which is what I was sharing as well, which again, if she doesn't even have a will and testament, if she didn't have life insurance or anything like that, that makes it even more difficult, right? Because now they have to decide who her assets go to, right? Her boyfriend could say, "Oh, we intertwined our finances," and try to go after her money as well. There's just so many things that make it very, very complicated. But a Dusty like this doesn't know anything about end of life care or preparation, how people prepare for dying, their wills, what happens to people's money when they pass away and they don't have a will. They don't know anything about that. So that's why they would get online and say something like this when her family is still fighting for answers. They don't even have her body yet. Keep in mind.
Criminal case, and God forbid she didn't make a will, which many 30-year-olds don't really think about. Like I don't have a will. Honestly, I probably should write one. It's a chance that her family won't be able to access her personal effects to do what I believe to be one of the most harrowing things imaginable, which is to bury a child. But beyond all of that, this tweet and what I'm about to show you subsequently shows how much the idea of a woman, let alone a dark-skinned black woman, living in luxury, how much that pisses off insecure men to the point where they revel and rejoice in her death. There's some nuance to this that we have to get into, because the whole soft life, black girl luxury, pink pill, sprinkle, hypergamy side of the internet is fraught with conservative, anti-black, and misogynist propaganda. Ashley's passing provoked.
Now, let me just say this, and this is where I will have to tell Forum Fridays that you need to pump the brakes and go and look at the history of how men, because you mentioned Kevin Samuels, so that means you know of some of those Dustosphere individuals, but you need to pump the brakes and go look at the history of how some of those pages came about. You are not going to mix in Shara 7 with Charlie Kirk and and conservatives and stuff like that. Those don't all go together. They do not all go together. And I do think that sometimes people think that soft life and everything all just blend in together to this conservative, anti-black. No, it's not. If a black man wants to give a woman a soft life, he can go ahead and do the same thing. No one's going to be mad at that. I follow some families. They live on a farm. The guy just be filling her up with babies. They have like 6 kids. They all have traditional hairstyles and they dress beautifully. They live on a farm. She homeschools. Like, it's all beautiful. No one is saying that soft life is just for people who want to divest. So I do think that if you are going to be someone who's going to call out the manosphere, then you have to be real about where everyone falls, right? Shira 7, Cynthia G, they're not on the opposite side of the black manosphere. They don't speak. They don't speak. They're not the female equivalent, I should say. They definitely are on the opposite side. They're not the female equivalent of the black manosphere at all. They speak the truth, and a lot of times people don't like the truth. Terrell said, honestly, I'm tired of all these so-called love gurus. I believe in promoting a positive community, but that dude generalizes too much and act like his sentiments should be everyone's sentiments. Yeah, he thinks that he's like the speaker, the progenitor of the black community. Like, he speaks with full authority for black people. And I'm talking about Anton, not the one on screen, but he definitely feels like he does. And for somebody who says such negative things, why would anybody want him to be a representative of black people and especially black people online? It's very strange. But I just wanted to caution that, here, because I do think sometimes these people who do recognize the black manosphere, they still make the mistake of acting like a Shira 7 or, some of these bigger people that people hate, like Cynthia G and all that. They're not the female equivalent to a black manosphere. They are simply saying what people don't want to say about the community. And yeah, if you're a black man and you realize that that's the truth, it's going to hurt when she says certain things. Especially if you can see and recognize that behavior in people you know and love. Just saying.
The ashiest of waste man to rise from the ash like a misogynist phoenix and spread their whole asshole open on the timeline like N64 Super Mario. Oh God. This person named Embrace Truth. This person is saying she was an escort / sugar baby. She didn't vet him to be a husband, but to be a trick. He turned out to be a super simp. Those men tend to be emotionally unstable. He crashed out overseas. Unless he confesses, there will be no serious investigation. Apart from the fact that we don't know if she was an escort, and speculating on that before the woman even in the ground is indicative of the industry of black feminine trauma, the way people will vilify a black woman, even in death. Meanwhile, the white man right there, it shows how deep misogyny war goes. But beyond that, the most important point that I haven't seen made yet,
and it's so true, right? It's so true how deep misogyny grows. And it's very deep in our community. And I think that's why it's hard for us to really have real serious conversations about femicide and what's happening in the community, because there's so much deep-rooted anti-woman like talking points, right? Like where it's misogyny. Where they're not going to have sympathy to talk about what's happening to black women, because their belief is that sometimes the things that happen to women, especially black women, is deserved. Let's continue.
If this woman was an escort, and I'm talking about the escortiest of escort, I'm talking about everything, full service, does that mean that she deserves to die? You saying this as though it's a justification for what happened to her. Sex work phobia is a crucial part of understanding not only this case right here, but also the puritanical push of soft life and trad wife content. Women having agency over their sexuality is the bane of these men's existence. Over the last half decade, there's been so many backflips that governments have made in women's rights. You had Roe v. Wade, and the fact that that is just a modicum of what's to come. The fact that women not only can enjoy their sexuality, but now can modify it, that has incensed men at large to the point where there has been an agenda to get women back into the homes and dependent upon said men. And as the sole provider in my...
And mind you, when men were just the only ones profiting off of sex work, and they were prostituting women and manipulating them into that lifestyle and taking all the money, I don't think there was this much of an issue, right? Especially because we know that prostitution was a big thing in the community, especially right after we were off the plantation, right? We saw a big uptick in that. So it's not even that women are engaging in sex work. It's that they're the ones profiting off of it, right? Or it's that they're not even allowing men to profit off of them, or be a sorry guys, or be a let me just put that on silent, or be something that can be used for patriarchy or the misogynist benefits. All right, let's continue.
Household, I could tell you from experience that it takes a lot not to be a despot. A lot of men, regardless of race, cannot carry out the role of patriarch without resentment, which is why the soft life and the triad wife propaganda can be dangerous advice to women. Because imagine this, what species in the animal kingdom, if any, has the disposition of dependence upon their apex predator?
And you know what? I'm not even going to say he's wrong with that, right? I definitely don't like the idea of the trad wife, soft life thing, because I do think some people chase after that, and you're running right into the arms of somebody who can manipulate you and hurt you, or even abandon you using that same money. And so now it becomes, are you going to be 100% dependent on this man, or are you going to even just use him so that when you guys do break up, you don't end up being discarded as a result, right? And I think that's where some of his rhetoric is getting confused, because Shira is not necessarily the whole type where she believes that women should just throw themselves at the mercy of men. No, she believes in, if you are going to be with a man who wants you to fulfill this role of woman who stays at home and who she's a trophy or whatever, that you also take care of yourself financially if he's going to put you in that position, right? That if he is going to give you that position or role in his life, that it's going to come with a financial benefit. And I think that the conversations just get perverted, right? Some people spin it into, FMNE gets that money. Or it turns into like, oh, don't deal with guys unless they have money. And so now women are dealing with men who have money, who have very poor, low vibrational characters. And I think I get what he's saying here, though. I understand the whole, you don't want to tell women, oh yeah, be dependent on this lifestyle where if a man does want to take you out, now you're at his mercy because he financially controls you. So he's not totally wrong about that.
Is your dynamic as a cishet woman? The person most responsible for your demise are men. And like, you gotta love us. There's a man in your life that you love, which is another reason why the feminism that I subscribe to and that I am in a constant ministry of trying to really embody is that in order to live harmoniously, we have to engender a world of which the men don't subscribe to this violent patriarchy that not only hurts the women in their lives, but them as well. But I get in my head of myself because this tweet right here, the Negrosphere isn't limited to Twitter. The discourse surrounding Ashley Jenae spread like a disease to every platform and woke up the worst gender war takes I've seen in some time. And I was there when Kevin Samuel was dead. It was absolutely a minefield. This is the type of shit that we dealing with. So, trigger warning for this nigga. Oh God. I've stumbled across this man plenty of times, unfortunately. He plagues my FYP. One time I was scrolling in the dark and I saw this nigga and I said, hey! You don't get to tell black men how to feel about a divestor.
Rest in peace to Ashley Jenae. She lost her life at the end of the day. That's still what matters. But you don't get to get on here and judge black men for not having sympathy.
The man barely even paused after saying rest in peace. The man just immediately going to she's dead at the end of the day. But
did you have sympathy when he lost his life to a white woman? Or were you combing his social media posts to attempt to see that, he did not have a preference to date white women and you used that against him justifying his death? Right? You didn't give a fuck. So, bare minimum, you don't get to ask somebody else to care about this. You don't get to do that. And the fact that some of y'all actually are comfortable asking black men to care about a woman who clearly thought less of them. Ashley Jenae.
Let me ask you, who's asking black men to care? I just want to know, because this conversation also irritates me, because we know that the majority of activism in the black community happens by black women, right? I'm not trying to be rude. It's always been a fact during the Black Panther era, where people believed that black men were these kings and things like that. It's always been the majority of the time black women, but it's like this conversation is coming out of thin air because there are no black women online saying, black men, you have to forgive her for being a divestor and advocate for her. No one is asking that. It's literally just people are just pulling gender war conversations out of thin air. I bet you not one person ever said anything about Ashley Jenae to him, and he just promptly said, "Let me make this video with this chia pet looking ass shape up that I have." It's just ridiculous.
Wasn't some black woman that, believed in staying with her people and all that shit. She was a divestor. Once again, she was a divestor. She had no respect for black men, and she believed white supremacist talking points and black men being the bane of existence, and she participated in that rhetoric consistently while having a white partner. She also fetishized having mixed children, which we always shame black men for. I just want y'all to have some type of consistency, some type of dignity. Not to mention, these are the type of women that are telling you have to feel bad for a black woman that literally would have mocked you if you lost your life while dealing with a white woman. Would have mocked you, even in death. Where everybody's supposed to have some type of decorum, or they lost their life, we should have some type of, no, you don't get to do that.
The fact that he did this whole TikTok with helium voice, a lot to unpack here. So let's start with the term divestor, which is in reference to a group of women that claim to divest in black men romantically and encourage women to date whichever race they prefer. They're an extremely small, ostensibly online and majorly American, North American based group of people that are nowhere near as big as the manosphere and not nearly as influential in radicalizing men to be more misogynist. I have not met one person that refers to themselves as a divestor in real life. I have met acolytes of Kevin Samuels in the States, however. I live in the Bahamas. It's a black nation. Majority partner with black women. Even in the States and other races as well, they are coupled with same race partners. The important context for understanding the dribble that this man, Mr. Backwood, his name is Mr. Woods, Mr. Backwood. The important context for understanding that is he says he ought not care as a black man for the passing of a black woman who has tweeted negatively about black men and has partnered a white man. So Mr. Woods says he has no sympathy for Ashley, as people had no sympathy for Christian Obumseli, whose life was taken by his white partner. I remember this case. I've cited this case alongside Emmett Till as an example of how dangerous it can be to be fed.
And let me say, Tyrell, I don't disagree with you. Like, I don't think that we should be having very general conversations about quote unquote black men or black women. I think that when we do that, it's not helpful. But I do think that if we're talking about online rhetoric, right, I would say that there are lots of men, black men online who have made it their business and their content strategy to talk about black women in a degrading way, and specifically the community too. Because you talked about Anton Daniels yourself. He specifically talks about I'm sorry guys, I got a notification while I'm doing something here. Sorry. But he specifically makes a lot of content that is very anti-black women. Right? He talks about black women in a particular way. And I think that when you have so much content like that, there is going to be black women that come on the other side and try to be just as loud. Right? And I'm not saying they're right, but I think that when you tell people, hey, don't talk about people in general, when there's such a huge, loud voice that's already speaking about one demographic more heavily in a general way, I think it's a little bit it makes people feel like you're just ignoring the problem. Hey, Lana Love, how you doing? Happy Tuesday. I forgot what day it was. Happy Tuesday. Yeah, me too. I actually really enjoyed his content. I loved how he put it together as well. And I think, even without watching the whole thing, like a lot of his takes are very similar to mine on the subject. Let's continue though.
Fetishize, and how to be fetishized is not to be loved. And it's important to differentiate between the two, because if you're being fetishized, you're being objectified. And if you're an object, you're property. You can do anything you want to property. You could invest in it. You could build a mansion on top of it. or you could slash and burn it down like agriculture. Now, the parallels to Ashley Jenae's case is apples to tomatoes. The only similarity is that they were dating interracially. Let me help Mr. Backwoods with his argument by using another case that one would argue is similar.
Breaking news. Hannah Grace Cobb has officially been arrested in connection with the death of the father of her 2 children and boyfriend of 5 years, 30-year-old Telbo Rackins. Telbo was shot and killed on Sunday morning around 5:45 a.m., where he and Hannah had just gotten home from a night out of clubbing and drinking. For whatever reason, when they got home, Hannah Grace began handling a gun. People claim that she was cleaning her gun and it led to an accidental discharge of the weapon, which ultimately fired into Telbo's chest and killed him. For the past 48 hours since Telbo died, there has been an outcry on social media for Hannah Grace Cobb to be arrested. The Burke County Sheriff's Office was just doing a Facebook Live press conference. I'm happy to show you that there has been an arrest made. I caught a little bit of the press conference where they said an arrangement was made to bring Hannah in. She was booked. She has not been bonded out. She is being charged with a felony involuntary manslaughter.
And I understand that her father was also on the police force. In situations like this, there is a reptilian urge to protect the innocence of white women, the purity of white women. Birth of a Nation is so much of the folklore and the mythos of Western culture is about protecting the purity of whiteness and white women specifically. It's very easy once you get in a court of law and there's a nigga dead and a white woman on trial crying snot nose. It's very easy for you to make whatever case you need to placate the white gal them. It's the reason why we talk about white woman tears. However, obligatory note that we do not know if Ashley's partner was responsible for her passing, but we do know Telbo's partner was. And one could argue that the similarities between Ashley and Telbo not only had white partners, but they both made public and negative statements about their black dating options. However, the severity of the sentiment is where we see a difference between Ashley and Telbo. Let's look at what Ashley actually said. This is some of the tweets that she made from 2015. My mom is convinced I'm gonna marry a white man. My mom is convinced I'm going to be with a white man just like her. Definitely a lot of fixation.
And let's talk about it. I'm not gonna be rude. Ashley's mom is married to a white man as well. Okay? Ashley's mom also married a white man, and she wanted that for her daughter. I'm not gonna say this is right, but that's how she felt. Who are we to be upset about that? Right? Or who is even, somebody online to be upset about that? Maybe the way she expressed it, people are like, okay, that's a little awkward. Oh. Sorry, guys. I'm over here trying to take care of something. Okay, sorry.
On the white man them. And it's clear that not only she dated white men, but her mother did as well, which may be where Ashley developed a distaste for black men. And she was groomed as a parent, especially a parent of
but her dad was in her life as well. And her dad remarried a black woman, right? So I think I don't want to get too far off and start judging what her mom might have taught her, right? I just don't think that was the case. She had her dad, and her dad was present in her life. So why would she have a negative opinion about black guys besides it being her experience? So Lana Love says he's a decent guy. Support this guy. He isn't one-sided. Yeah, he definitely isn't. I just some of his points I do push back on. Sorry, guys. I'm over here trying to do 2 things at once because I'm technically working. Sorry. Sorry.
Girl, you're trying to find a way to groom your child for success. You're trying to find a way to prepare your child for a life where they can live independently of you. And a disservice that some parents do to their girls is that they prepare a child for dependency upon a man as opposed to the self-sufficiency and independence of themselves. You often find if a man that seems to be able to take care of themselves financially, take care of the woman financially as well. If a parent, especially a mother, and especially if a mother has gone through something similar, what they can do is that, okay, this seems like a man that's able to take care of my daughter. And the dangers of that is that they don't necessarily always prepare you for the price of being dependent upon a benevolent sexist, a man that will take care of you in a way that doesn't empower you.
But I also don't think that's what was happening with Ashley either. I think Ashley had a lot of her own independent things going on in her life. And so I think she was taking care of herself. And just even implying that her mom wasn't preparing her to be an independent individual again, that's like something we just don't know about her life. What she wrote online probably wasn't even her own beliefs in general. It was just what she was writing online. So we have to be very careful for what we
fattened
say.
like lambs for slaughter. These are some of the other tweets that she's made. Been saying since third grade, my children will be mixed. LMAO. Mixed babies are so cute. From here, you can see Ashley was not only fixated on white men, but also mixed babies. Like I've said in regards to Nika Diwa, the Fluellen family, and all the other mixed baby influencer families, the fetishization of mixed kids is not only, especially fetishization of mixed kids by black people, is not only a manifestation of anti-blackness, but also objectifying infants. Okay? To state that you have intentions of procreating for mixed kids specifically is pretty eugenicsy. You're not talking about having a child with someone because you love them. You're talking about them being...
So one thing I'll say again, and this is why I didn't want him to caution himself, because you're implying that the fixation with mixed kids is exclusive to black people. It is not. The people who date out and they have a fetishization of mixed children are not just black. And they're also fixated on mixed kids. So I think that's one thing that he's saying there that's really not correct. And I think when you're not from the US, the context is really easy to miss. Jeez, guys, sorry, I keep getting put off track. I think that that's one thing there that I'll disagree with what he's saying there. I think that it's not just black people, and especially black women who fetishize mixed kids. I think a lot of times it is the black men, white women couples that fetishize them. I think they really like the product and how it makes someone that's not really black, but is also not really white. I think that's the people who fetishize it, and it's those couples and those relationships. And to say that that's only black people, it's very dangerous to say, and it's also uninformed.
Because like you think that it would be cute to have these specific children. That said, from what I've seen, the tweet in which he references black men is this tweet down here. Every day, black men wake up and find new ways to embarrass us. While I don't think black men are a monolith, so I don't agree. Niggas Association, niggas TM, I don't think that we're a monolith. I don't think Ashley's digital footprint, from what I've seen, means that she deserves no sympathy after what she has said pertaining to black men. I do think she has fetishized white men, much like white men have probably fetishized her. It also speaks to the myth of the perfect victim. The amount of misogyny that this case caused without this woman being in the ground yet is absolutely overwhelming. And the reason why it spread like fire with gasoline is because Ashley not only being a dark-skinned black woman, which is already warranting a level of hate that no other experience faces. But she's also showcasing a lifestyle of which insecure men may take offense to because it provides indirect commentary on their financial acumen. Capitalism affects us all. These are very trying times. So if you're not able to understand theoretically what's going on in regards to capitalism and see it not as a failing on you, but more so a system, you might feel insecure about your finances and your inability to splurge or be materialistically boastful. So Ashley just existing, and you don't know how Ashley get the things that she did. She might not have gotten it from the dude. She might be in debt, but you just seeing it. Maybe your gal seeing it, and then your gal saying, "Ooh, must be nice," or you seeing it and you want to close that page because you don't want them to see it because it says something about you. It really doesn't, but to you it says something about you. When you add the controversiality of interraciality that will affect Ashley, but not the white man, mind you. If anything, the white man, we name is Joe McCann. If anything, Joe McCann will only get bragging rights because white men fetishize black women by assigning them this magical, freaky femininity. I tell you, ain't nothing like one Kevin Federline ass nigga blood. Hold on. Y'all ain't know who Kevin Federline is. Oh shit, that's a real nigga. I was talking about the nigga from Cleveland show. Oh god. He's a real guy.
Okay, he's getting off track here, right? But I'm actually gonna end there, right? I do think he has some more valuable things to say. So if you guys want to view his channel, feel free to click and view him. All right, but it's interesting, right? Ashley's case is not even about her anymore, right? It's become about this whole gender war conversation, this who's more dangerous to date, who should black women date, who's it better for black women to date, etc. So now that we talked a little bit about Ashley, I want to move on to a case that it doesn't seem like it's getting the same attention and energy from these same spaces that love to make these arguments and conversations, a community conversation. The case of Shemar Elkins. And I wanted to highlight this case here because this is so tragic. Like, how do we get to a point where a 1-year-old is a victim is part of one of the victims in a domestic violence case? I think that is just a very bizarre outcome, and it's very scary to live in a world like this, right? Where children, if you leave your partner, your children's life's in danger now. Right? And we still refuse to have the conversations about dating violence and relationship violence. So I wanted to start here, and I'm going to start here, and I'm going to go back and actually read all the details out. We're going to watch them visually, but if we miss any, I'm going to go back to the article and read all the details of the case because this is a very shocking and bizarre case. But let's talk about Shemar Elkins and unfortunately what happened to the 8 children that were residing in the homes that he was associated with on that fateful day.
And we was having so much fun. And I say for any grandparent out there, be happy. Be happy with your grandkids and have fun with them. I'm just praying that everything will be all right for my daughter. She's in the hospital right now. She's fighting.
To wake up and to hear this kind of news that someone would shoot 8 children, 8 innocent children, it's just unreal.
8 children that are deceased. I can't be strong for you. I think about the mother and what this family has lost. I think about this community and what this community has lost. And I don't have the words to give you, and I'm sorry.
New details tonight about the mass shooting in Louisiana that left 8 children dead early this morning. Police have identified.
And I just want to say this as well. If we as a community were more serious about IPV, intimate partner violence, dating violence, they wouldn't be able to frame this as a mass deletion. Right? They're taking a situation of extreme family annihilation and partner violence, and they're turning it into the new face of mass deletions. They're not even talking about that this is a situation of domestic violence. Some of the cases are going to talk about it more, but notice how this is being framed as such. This is not the only news anchor and even law enforcement figure that is going to call it that. Right? We know they're calling it that because of the number of people, but there's been mass shootings that killed 20 people. How is a family annihilation being called a mass shooting? It's because they want to change the imagery of mass shooting. And, people refusing to have these conversations that make it easy to do so. Right? If we're not going to get up and make 30 videos about this case and call it DV, intimate partner violence, family violence, then yeah, they're going to take it and they're going to spin it into, the new face of mass shooters is a black man who killed his whole family. That's what you're going to notice with the framing of this case here of Shemar Elkins. Let's continue.
The gunman as the father of 7 of the victims. Authorities say he also killed the children's cousin and critically injured their mother and another woman.
On the morning of April 19th, 2026, in Shreveport, Louisiana, officers responded to what they were told was a domestic disturbance. By the time the scene was fully processed, they discovered that the incident was something that felt impossible to hold on to. 10 people had been shot. 7 of them were his own children, and one of the other people injured was his wife, Shaniqua Elkins. In the weeks leading up to that morning, Shaniqua had been making a...
Notice, again, it's not a mass deletion, right? We all know that mass shootings are those active shooter events. Someone goes to a public place, people he doesn't know, and decides to take up feelings of violence, of anger out on those people. Sometimes he does know the people. Maybe it's a workplace. But what is happening, or what happened to this family, is not a mass deletion. This is family violence. But they're framing it as such because notice, we're not having the conversation about this situation as a very wicked and sad case of family violence, right? People are still uploading their videos about Ashley Jenae's case. They're not going to look at this case and say, Jesus, a man killed a 1-year-old infant. Something is going on. We need to talk about what's happening in these families. People don't want to do that. It's left to the people who talk about crime and violence all the time to have these conversations. And so that's why it's easy for the media, for law enforcement, to now take this situation of tragic family violence, family annihilation, and turn it into a mass shooting. All right, but the details of this case, we're going to see this was cut. I mean, this is so classically domestic violence.
string of posts on social media that seemed to point to one thing: she was done. Reportedly, that was what set everything in motion. Neighbors described him as a good and present father, someone who showed up for his kids. Just weeks before, this same man had been smiling for photos with his children. Now, he was at the center of this tragedy, with those same kids in body bags on West 79th Street. Before we get too deep, please remember to like, comment, and subscribe if you find value in these discussions. Shemar Elkins grew up and built his life in Shreveport. He was 31 years old and had already served in the United States Army. Shaniqua Elkins had posted a photo of him in his Army uniform back in 2016, writing that she had been waiting for him to come home. They had been together for a long time.
And you made a good point. You made a really good point, Lana Love, right? Part of it is the financial struggles in America. We know that is what is the biggest driver of divorce and, family stress, family issues, even if it doesn't lead to violence. A lot of it is due to finances. So am I believing that finances put a big strain on their relationship? Probably. It probably did. Right? Obviously, there's this other spin to it here that we found out after the fact, right? That he was actually he already had started another family. He had children outside of his marriage, and his wife was done. Right? So definitely financials was probably a huge part of it. They had a lot of children, right? But the people around, they knew him as somebody who was involved. Right? They knew him as somebody who was there and present and tried to do his best, and they probably weren't rich. Definitely not. But he tried to be there, from what people saw at least.
And stayed together for...
Ew, look at those fingernails though. Jeez, this gotta be, someone gotta add that to the red flag blocks. He don't cut his fingernail. That's a major red flag.
Years after it, they officially made it legal on April 9th, 2024. Which also happened to be Shaniqua's birthday. Shaniqua posted about it that same day, writing, "We finally made it official. I got married on my birthday." By 2025, they had been together for 10 years, had 4 daughters, and a marriage that was only a year old at that point. On April 10th, 2025, Shaniqua marked their first wedding anniversary on Facebook. She wrote, "Happy first anniversary to us. I thank you for everything that you did for me today. I enjoyed every moment of it. Shemar Elkins, 10 long years and 4 beautiful girls. What a time we had. Now, one of the things that made this family complicated from the outside was the last names. Shemar had children across multiple households. 4 of his daughters with Shaniqua carried the Elkins name, but there were other children who carried the last names Pugh and Snow. All of those children were part of his world. He did not keep them separate, at least not on the surface. He showed up for all of them, posted about all of them, and by all visible accounts, presented himself as a father.
So, Lana, you bring up a great point. They were together 10 years. They only have 4 children. He had 4 children outside of the marriage. And they just got married. So most of the time that she was with him and he had his kid there, she had his kids, he hadn't even committed to her. And then he just committed to her. And he had he deleted a 1-year-old. So he had a new baby. A new baby while he had just married her. I mean, this was not a healthy marriage by any stretch of the imagination.
Who was present. On April 5th, 2026, Shemar posted a photo of himself outside a church with his 7 children all dressed up, and he was smiling like a man who had everything. The caption read, "Happy Easter. Had a wonderful time at church for the first time with all my kids. What a blessed day." But here's the thing. Underneath that image, something had been pulling at this family for a while, and the social media trail tells a story that, looking back, is very hard to look away from. Back in March 2026, Shemar shared a post from a Facebook page. The post asked fathers a question. If they could go back in time and have their same kids with a different woman, would they do it? Shemar responded publicly, "Hell yeah, I would." He was a married man, and he said that publicly on his own Facebook page. 4 days later, on March 12th, Shemar posted something brief but striking. It simply read, "Understand to be misunderstood." No context, no explanation, just those 4 words. Then came April, and things started to shift more visibly from Shaniqua's end. On April 8th, Shaniqua shared a post that read, "When a woman replaces you with peace and not another man, it is really over for you." Then on April 10th, Shaniqua shared another post. This one was longer. It read, "For the first time in my life, I do not want to be nobody's woman or wife. I know what it feels like to be a wife, to cook, clean, hold it down, share your bed, your space, your whole life, to pour into a man daily and still make sure everything is straight. I do not want to wash no man's clothes. I do not want to share my bed. I do not want to hear what are we eating every day. I do not want to adjust my peace for nobody. I am not."
Oof. Oof. This was not that long ago either. This was not that long ago. So she was done struggling. She was done with this ridiculous marriage. My only wish was that she was less vocal about how she felt and what she was willing to tolerate anymore. You know, these demons usually, they can tell when you're done with them. That's the thing. They know when you're done with them. And so I think that even if she didn't go and tell him in his face, this post was enough for someone like him. Right? He doesn't care that he was cheating on you. He doesn't care that he had babies outside of the marriage. He cares that now the world knows that you're no longer with him. After he believes that he put himself on the line and married you. Yeah, completely diabolical. But I bet you that this post definitely triggered him. I believe that her stating out loud that she was done, like she was done. She didn't want to be putting herself aside for someone who didn't even love her or care or respect her. I think that this was enough of a declaration for somebody like himself who believed that no matter what you do to them, that you're supposed to give them unconditional love. That's what a lot of these men believe. That they should do anything, say anything, treat you however, and no matter what, If you're with them, if you have their kids, if you're married, if you say you're down for them, then that means that you should not question anything and just go along with their dust forever. And if they cheat on you, if they have babies outside the relationship, if they're verbally abusive, if they're not even romantic or loving, if they put their needs before yours every day, you're still not supposed to leave that man or want better. Let's see what else she was going through right before this violent act.
Bitter. I am just done playing that role. Right now, I am choosing me, my peace, and my freedom, and I am not explaining that to nobody. Shaniqua was done. That much was clear from her own words. And reportedly, people close to the situation confirmed the same thing. She had made up her mind. 3 days later, on April 13th, she shared one more post. The crazy part is, I do not even hate you. I just do not feel you anymore. That love turned into lessons, and them lessons turned into distance. So now you're finally ready, and I am finally done. That is what bad timing looks like. 3 posts in less than a week, each one more direct than the last. She was communicating very clearly in her own way that this chapter was closing. Now, while all of this was playing out online, Shemar posted something that at the time probably looked like any other father-daughter moment. On April 17th, 2026, he took his oldest daughter out for a one-on-one lunch date, just the two of them. He posted a photo of her in the car, eating, and wrote that he had to catch her off guard to make it happen. 2 days later, in the early hours of April 19th, 2026, the domestic situation that had been building between Shemar and Shaniqua reached a point that no one could have fully anticipated. The sequence of events, as pieced together by investigators, started on Harrison Street, a few blocks away from the main residence on West 79th Street. That was where Shaniqua was. Shemar went there first, and she was shot at that location. Her injuries were serious, described by police as life-threatening. Shemar did not stop at Harrison Street. From there, he went to the residence on the 300 block of West 79th Street, the home where the children were. And that is where the scale of what he did became something that officers who arrived on scene said they had never encountered in their entire careers. 7 children were found inside that home. An 8th child was found outside, in the area between the house and the back of the property. All 8 of them lost their lives. 7 of them were Shemar's own biological children. The 8th was their cousin. A second adult woman was also shot at the West 79th Street location. She too was in critical condition. The 13-year-old boy who had escaped from the Harrison Street location had jumped from a roof at some point during the ordeal. He sustained some injuries, but survived and is expected to recover. After the incident, Shemar left the scene and carjacked a vehicle just down the road, at the corner of West 79th Street and
And I don't know what these people's daily lives were like, but imagine even that boy who got away, the guilt he's gonna feel like, right? Knowing that there was another kid trying to get away, and that boy passed away under roof. The violence that he witnessed. I mean, who's that boy gonna trust? Who are these women ever gonna trust again in their lives? It's a wicked, wicked act. When I heard how this was described, I tell you guys, I almost couldn't even stomach words. It was too much to know that an infant was treated with such horrific violence after just being born, just being born. And these are the same people who would ignore something like this are the same people who get mad when people say, get an abortion, don't have kids, selective breeding, protect your womb. They're the same people who will say that those are feminist, evil talking points. I don't understand either, but it seems the only thing that could have prompted this was the divorce that she was initiating, right? The woman finding out, the posts. There really isn't anything else outside of their home life blowing up. And he took an infant's life, a 1-year-old. Like, this is disgusting. like disgusting behavior. Most people think that an infant is safe, and we would hope. But he took an infant's life and he followed a toddler, I believe it was like a 6 or 7-year-old, to the roof and took their life while they were trying to run away, probably begging for mercy. How does anybody move forward from this? I mean, forget us and how we feel. Imagine the family. How they all have to live with the fact of this person that they all knew. Maybe they made excuses for him. Maybe they even overlooked his attitude and his temperament. How are all of them going to live with the fact that he did this too? It's a really tragic description. I could barely stomach some of this when it first came out. I was really glad to see some bigger people who have a louder voice, who have always used it to talk about this. I was glad that they spoke about it first, because I almost couldn't even. The kids had nothing to do with their argument. Yeah, a 1-year-old definitely doesn't. 7-year-old, 6-year-old, 5-year-old, 8-year-old, 11-year-old, none of those kids had anything to do with their conflict or their marriage ending. This is a very selfish way to deal with things not going your way.
Wood Avenue. Shreveport police patrol officers located the vehicle and a chase began. From Shreveport, across the parish line, and into neighboring Bossier City. The chase ended when officers discharged their firearms, and Shemar Elkins was pronounced deceased at the scene. Louisiana State Police took over that portion of the investigation. By the time the full scene was processed, investigators were working across 4 locations: the Harrison Street residence, the 2 homes on West 79th Street, and the site in Bossier City where Shemar was shot by police. Chris Bordelon of the Shreveport Police Department described it as one of the most extensive crime scenes the department had ever encountered. This incident became the nation's deadliest mass shooting in more than 2 years. In a single morning, it had doubled Shreveport.
And I get it, there's a lot of people that passed away. But this was family violence. Labeling it as anything else is a miscarriage. Right? I think it's the media using its influence for the worst possible thing that it can do, which is trying to label a different demographic as the face of mass shooters, when we know what the reality is. This was family violence. And this man was absolutely a serial killer. He deleted a lot of people. But like, even saying mass shooting, like, this is, I mean, honestly, opening fire on people, it could possibly meet some level of a definition of a mass shooting, but what happened here is way more along the lines of domestic violence than anything else. And the fact that the women are alive, imagine how those women are going to actually live with the fact that they have toddlers and kids that were killed by a person they thought they were supposed to have children with and be with for the rest of their lives.
Its total count for the entire year. The Caddo Parish Coroner's Office worked to formally identify all 8 children. Jayla Elkins, 3 years old. 5-year-old Shayla Elkins. 6-year-old Kadarian Snow. 6-year-old Kayla Pugh. 7-year-old Layla Pugh. 5-year-old Braylon Snow. 10-year-old Marcaden Pugh. 11-year-old Soraya Snow. The community gathered outside that home on West 79th Street.
So most of those kids weren't even double digits ages. I mean, this is an egregious, it's giving, I could see why they're calling it mass shooting. I mean, we're talking Sandy Hook, like, where it was a bunch of kids dead for no reason. That's what this is giving. So yeah, I can kind of see why they're labeling it a mass shooting.
Neighbors, strangers, people who had no direct connection to the family but felt the weight of what had happened in their city.
Right now we have at least 10 individuals that were struck by gunfire last night in a domestic disturbance. 8 of these individuals are deceased. The ranges of the decedents are from 1 year of age to approximately 14 years of age. All of the deceased in this case are juvenile.
You heard people wailing when they received the news from the Shreveport, Louisiana police. Later, The news getting even worse.
I can tell you that 7 of the 8 children that were killed are believed to be his children. We are still working to determine a complete motive and understanding as to why this happened.
There's no understanding of father murdering his own children, the pain running deep.
And this is the result when someone snaps. So I'm going to ask the community, along with prayer, with every mental health consultant, counselor that is out here, this family and this community needs you. I need you. Because how do we get through this?
In total, detectives say 31-year-old Shemar Elkins shot 10 people in 3 different locations. 7 of the 8 juvenile victims were killed inside a home, the 8th on the roof while trying to escape. The 2 people who survived, police say, are Elkins' wife and girlfriend. Both shot in the head, both in critical condition.
Wow.
All I can tell you today is
that is insane. Now tell me that's not an egregious, nasty, narcissistic behavior to take out all of their children.
my heart is saddened. It has brought me to my knees, and of course that's a great place to be, because then we can communicate with God.
When police moved in to arrest him, they say he carjacked a person at gunpoint. Officers gave chase, catching up to him, then shooting and killing Elkins. The multiple crime scenes, gruesome.
A man who identified himself as the father of one of the female victims and the grandfather of some of the children spoke through visible grief.
I was guest with my grandbabies the other day, and we was having so much fun. And I say for any grandparent out there, be happy. Be happy with your grandkids and have fun with them. I'm just praying that everything will be all right for my daughter. She's in the hospital right now. She's fighting.
We began with a community grieving after a mass shooting in Louisiana. 10 people were shot in Shreveport. 8 were killed, all of them children. The gunman also dead. Police say the attack happened at 2 homes. CBS's Jason Allen details. Jason.
Jerika, good evening. People are still filling this Shreveport neighborhood tonight, emotional and upset over this shooting that happened both at this house behind me and another one just up the road. And police told me in the last hour it was a survivor of the shooting who escaped and called them to tell them about it. Just after 6 o'clock this morning, when police got here, they found 10 people had been shot. 8 of them had been killed. And as you mentioned, all 8 of those were children. Police all.
That's crazy. I'm glad someone got away unscathed. I thought the person who ran away passed away too, but it looks like he got away unscathed and was able to call the police. That's shocking.
Also confirming for me that
I'm gonna pull aside my sentiments from earlier. This was absolutely a mass shooting. He went and he stalked every person that he intended on deleting. He went to where they locally were and actively shot up. He didn't care who was there. There were people who were not involved in his relationship, a cousin, like they mentioned. This kind of falls under that, and it's sad that it does, but it certainly does.
that at least 7 of those 8 children were the children of the shooter, who they identified as Shemar Elkins. After the shooting, police say that Elkins carjacked someone just down the street, got into a pursuit with police, stopped. They say he produced a handgun and police officers shot him there at the scene. Louisiana State Police tonight are also involved in this investigation.
This is a tragic situation, maybe the worst tragic situation we've ever had in Shreveport.
I don't know what people think in the crevices of their mind to want to harm another human being, let alone that of children who have their whole life ahead of them.
Shreveport police said that they had one previous run-in with Mr. Elkins, but looking back at that history, Jerika, they said there is nothing that would explain anything like what happened here in Shreveport this morning.
Yeah, that community will never be the same. Jason Allen, thank you.
The Shreveport Police Department confirmed that before April 19th, They had one previous documented interaction with Shemar Elkins. When they looked back at that history, there was nothing in it that would have signaled what he was capable of doing. Louisiana Governor Jeff Landry issued a public statement saying he and First Lady Sharon were heartbroken over the events in Shreveport. He wrote that they were...
Now, let me just say this. One thing that annoys me about this case is they're going to say, oh, there was nothing that would have happened that would have let them know that he would be like this, okay? Which is a goddamn lie, okay? This man had prior charges, and instead of giving him jail time, his military status, and his privilege as someone who had somewhat of a decorated, not decorated, but like he didn't have a criminal history, he was able to get away with something that was, for all intents and purposes, would have put anyone else in jail. So I'm going to share this article really quickly, and I want to talk about it because they just implied there that he was somebody who hadn't done anything that would indicate that he was violent, and that's just not true. All right, so in March of 2019, KTBS reported that Elkins was arrested on charges of illegal use of a weapon and carrying a firearm on school property. A police report said he fired 5 rounds at a car about 300 feet from a Shreveport high school as it sped away. He later pleaded guilty to the illegal weapons charge and was placed on 18 months probation. The firearms charge was dismissed. Why? So you're telling me this man is getting into an active shootout in front of a high school and the charges are pretty much dismissed besides the illegal firearm because he had no criminal history? I know they'll do things like this, but somebody who's willing to do something like that, that should tell you that they don't care about their surroundings. They're not worried about who's going to get hurt because, yeah, you might be engaged in something really intense, but any person responsible with a brain, probably kids around. I mean, this is a school area. Somebody could unintentionally be hurt by what I'm doing, right? But somehow he was absolved of that because he was ex-military and what do you call it? He, maybe he had no criminal history, and so that type of thing helps. Judges will work with you. Me personally, I think you're a veteran, someone who's been maybe not to war, but you were in the military at some point. You're showing that you can do something really violent, like shoot at a car in front of a school. He should have, at the very least, had to surrender firearms or something. But I mean, this man was still able to keep firearms. It's not that long later. This is like 7 years later. So he's shooting at a school, but because they downgraded the charges so much, he was able to keep his firearms and pretty much just continue to live his life how he wanted to, regardless of doing something that was incredibly violent and possibly being someone who, was suffering from trauma or anything else that was maybe related to his time in the military. And they really just kind of let him go because he had no criminal history. So I don't think this guy was completely blameless. I think having done something like this should have shown that he was maybe erratic and impulsive, because if you're somebody who was, at least disciplined enough to, be in the National Guard for 7 years and not have been discharged dishonorably or anything like that, maybe he has conduct history in the military that we don't know about. Most of those records are sealed, but you were in the military for 7 years. How would these women know that he would go to this lengths if he was able to make it in the military all that time? And even when, at the time of his sentencing, the fact that he was someone who was ex-military helped him with getting lesser charges. So he does have a history, but I don't think people were assuming, okay, somebody doing something erratic like this for the first time in their lives doesn't indicate a big problem. I think it did. This was probably the first time in his life that things were kind of escalating. His behavior was escalating, and that was years ago. Who knows who he became between 2019 when he was shooting at this car to 5 days ago when he deleted his family, or 6 days ago. So very, very tragic case. So in that case, he ended up pleading guilty to the illegal weapons charge, but they dismissed the firearm charge. Basically, the shooting near a school, which I don't know why they would do that. He fired 5 rounds at a car. I mean, that's crazy. So, all right, let's go back to the video here. I think they have pretty good detailed information, so I want to make sure we get all of it before we move on to the next case.
Praying for everyone affected and expressed gratitude to the law enforcement officers and first responders working the scene. On April 9th, Shemar had shared a prayer. It was a lengthy post asking God to guard his mind and his emotions. Mayor Tom Arsenault, who was present at the scene from the early part of the investigation, addressed the community directly. He called it, in his own words, maybe the worst tragic situation Shreveport had ever faced. Currently, Shaniqua is recovering from her injuries. I hope these stories help you recognize warning signs and encourage you to seek help or offer support before it's too late. I'll see you in the next episode of Crime of Passion. Thank you for watching.
We'd just like to say good afternoon to everybody, and we're here with this tragedy. We ask that our entire city, our nation, our community would pray. This is something that will take your breath away, that will take...
All right, sorry, I thought there was a little bit more to that, but this is really a press conference that they did, really addressing it, talking about how it's impacting their community. And as you guys can tell, there's a lot of religious people in this community. I don't know how involved in the church he was, but I don't know how many people knew about the dynamic of this family. Like, were they close with people in the church? Besides Facebook, who else did his wife, his new wife, and his girlfriend, who else did they talk to about the problems that they were having in the home, or his temperament and his violence? Because it is possible that, he went from, whatever he did in 2019 to this. It is possible that he escalated and this was maybe another form of impulsive major violence of his, and that has been escalating. But I really do believe that this wasn't the first time that he had been violent towards his family for him to do something like this. All right. So we saw that one here. Let's move on to the vice mayor of Florida. Sorry, I moved that down a little bit. I meant to do this. So I'm going to talk about another case of Black femicide, or 2 more cases of Black femicide, and then I'm going to talk a little bit about some of the rhetoric that we still hear from a lot of men online, especially the rhetoric surrounding Black women. And I think this rhetoric connects to the misogyny that plays into a cycle of egregious relationship, familial, intimate partner violence as well. I do think that all those things play in together. I'm not going to tell you that all these people who passed away were guys who listened to the manosphere, but I will tell you that there's a lot of misogyny and this idea of patriarchy that's still running rampant in the Black community, where there's a lot of men who believe in this machismo, I'll call it, right? Where it's like the man is everything. He's the head of the house. He runs everything. He's the big man on campus. And I think that a lot of the circumstances of capitalism and the economy and things today, they're challenging those beliefs. They're challenging the patriarchy. Different people are breadwinners and are making the money, and those challenges to the norms are also contributing to issues that people are having in relationships, in being with the other gender that we haven't had in the past, I'll say. All right, so I'm going to move on here to these 2 cases, and then after we'll kind of start in on some of how these Dusties really talk about women, and how I do think that that plays into some of the mindsets that these men have about their relationships, and just how misogyny and patriarchy still really affects the relationships of Black men and Black women. So let me share my screen here. I'm sharing the wrong one. this one here. Get out of here. And we're going to talk about the death of Vice Mayor Nancy Bowen. Now, she was deleted by her husband. She's one of other very prominent women who has been deleted by her spouse recently. It's very unfortunate. These are really sad situations. When I tell you that Black femicide is a major issue that we're overlooking, it really is. You know, there's a lot of cases like this right now. There's a lot of cases of women that they, took a man in after he got out of prison. It was a very unbalanced relationship. Same thing, ends in murder, ends in violence, ends in a woman losing her life or DV in the home that escalates. It's these dynamics that kind of go on that I do think misogyny and patriarchy, they feed into them. And these figures online, they only exacerbate the issues that some of these men already have in their minds. I'm not going to say all men think like this, but there's a good subset of men who have the mindset of some of these men online that we're going to see talking about women, and specifically talking about Black women.
Our second honoree tonight is the Vice Mayor of Coral Springs, Madam Vice Mayor Nancy Bowen. Please give a Cosmos round of welcome to our second honoree tonight. Let's give it up.
First and foremost, I want to say thank you, but how can I go after Rabbi Fisher? Like, that was so amazing. That's not fair. I am truly honored and deeply grateful to Cosmos for this recognition, to be acknowledged by a coalition that is grounded in service, faith, and community means more than I can put.
I tried to stop my daughter from marrying him.
This award is
Those words from a mother who saw it coming. She couldn't explain it. There was no big argument, no obvious red flag she could point to, just a feeling deep in her gut every single time she was around him. Something was off, and she knew it. Her daughter was not just any woman. She was a rising star, a history maker, a woman who had broken barriers that others only dreamed of breaking. She had awards, titles, a community that loved her, and a future so bright it seemed untouchable. She was even preparing to run for Congress, but none of that could protect her from what was happening behind her own front door. Because on the morning of April 1st, 2026, police forced their way into a home and found...
So, again, these are just this month. Just this month. Okay, when we say femicide, especially Black femicide, is a major issue. This violence, and again, when we go back to Shemar Elkins, 5 of the children were girls. Okay, one of Protect Black Women and Girls, the Instagram channel or the Instagram page and the YouTube channel, the woman who's making all the content about Black femicide, who passed away unexpectedly. This is what she talked about. And when she compiled all the data throughout the year, it was so many Black women. And this was their fate. Dying in such wicked ways when they were accomplished, otherwise powerful, happy, successful women. And I'm talking just April. I didn't even realize this one fell into April. But so we're talking about the 2 women and their 8 children that were shot. The vice mayor. We're talking about Dr. Serena Fairfax. Just in April.
found her body, wrapped in blankets and a garbage bag, while the man accused of killing her had already driven away. He had used a pillow to muffle the sound of the shots, and then he went downstairs. And he slept. The question that will haunt you by the end of this video is this. How long had the warning signs been there? And who actually knew Before we get into everything, I want to ask you something. Have you ever had a gut feeling about someone in your life that turned out to be completely right? Drop it in the comments below. I read every single one. And if this story already has your attention, go ahead. And in Coral Springs, Florida, was that name meant something. She was 38 years old, a graduate of Florida A&M University, and the first black woman and first Haitian American ever elected vice mayor of Coral Springs. Let that sink in. In a city that had never seen someone like her in that seat, she showed up, she won, and she won again. She was re-elected in 2024. She received the United Nations Clean Water Advocacy Award. She was named one of the Haitian American Chamber of Commerce's top 20 under 40. She was preparing to run for Congress. By every measure, Nancy's life looked like a success story still being written. To her community, she was warm, driven, and deeply committed to the people she served. Her final social media posts showed her smiling with children, full of life, full of purpose. But behind that smile was a woman quietly carrying pain that most people never saw. A woman who was still grieving. A woman who had confided in her mother about things happening at home that she never spoke about in public. And a mother herself, who left behind a child who now has to grow up without her. Stephen Bowen was 40 years old. On paper, he looked like a solid, responsible man. He worked as a certified radiologic technologist at Delray Medical Center, a healthcare professional, someone people trusted with their well-being. He was a Mason, affiliated with the most worshipful Union Grand Lodge of Florida. He had hobbies. He spent time at the Homestead Training Center, where he practiced marksmanship.
You know, and this is why I don't even like to really engage that conversation about a dusty, like in reality, right? I really reserve those conversations about Pookie and Ray Ray Dusties for these online gender war spaces, because the reality is it's not gonna be that cut and dry, right? These two people obviously were two successful people. Both of them were living good lives. They were both successful. They were both, by all intents and purposes, living up to their potential. They were accomplishing something. He wasn't a bum. He had a career. He had decorum. She did as well. I didn't know they had a child, which is really, really sad. I was hoping they didn't. But how do these stupid gender war conversations play into it when there is no, oh, he was a pookie or she chose wrong? These were just two people in a relationship. Yeah, you just never know. You just never know what people are going through. You can look at people, you could see a beautiful couple. You can see luxury, what appears to be the most beautiful relationship, and you can even want to be just like them and find out that what they were living inside was not what they appeared. And it's so much deeper than just being able to say, see, he was an educated lady. No, it wasn't even about that. This was a dynamic that became unhealthy. This was a man who was fixated on power and control, and a woman who found herself in this dynamic, caught in this dynamic. And it does sound like, by what they were saying, her mom knew something about it. But it doesn't seem like it was just widely known that she was in this violent relationship. You know, she had this decorated reputation. She was known as this trailblazer, first black woman in Coral Springs to be the vice mayor, to have this political power. Yeah, a lot of people are definitely not in their right mind, right? But I think intimate partner violence is so hallmark, but there's not enough conversation about it. And so I think it gets turned into this, like, you just never know what people are going through or what people have in their mind. But I do think sometimes the signs are there, and we're not talking about it enough, and we're not recognizing it enough. But yeah, no, this is not someone in their right mind. Does it mean he wasn't aware of what he did? No, I think he was very aware of what he did. I think this was a dynamic that was operating based off of power and control, which a lot of domestic violence relationships turn into. And he made a choice. And most of us will probably look at that and be like, that's crazy. But when people are thinking in this control mindset, they're not thinking about what's right and wrong. They just want to accomplish whatever they feel like is going to keep their idea of the world and what it's supposed to be intact. It goes the same way for these abusive people. They believe that they should, and they have they have a right to control the people. They believe that the people in their lives are property. And if nobody ever challenges that, if people don't see the signs and try to recognize and intervene, or even like speak up when they hear it, or try to give, try to educate young women on this issue, then it's just always going to be a like, damn, we would have never known. But there are signs. There are signs. It's just we have that problem with getting the engine started, and that's the problem.
To anyone looking from the outside, Stephen Bowen was an upstanding member of his community. But here is the detail that explains everything about why Nancy stayed. Stephen was her high school sweetheart. This was not a stranger. This was the boy she had chosen long before the titles, the awards, and the political career. That kind of history runs deep. It makes it easy to dismiss a mother's concerns. It makes it easy to believe that the person you fell in love with as a teenager is still that same person. But people change. And as Nancy's star continued to rise, the awards, the re-election, the congressional ambitions, there are those close to the family who suggest that something in Stephen may have shifted. A quiet resentment, a growing distance, details that Nancy, it seems, had begun sharing with only one person, her mother. Now here is where this story takes a turn that will stay with you. And Nancy's mother has come forward. And what she is saying is not easy to hear. She said she tried to stop her daughter from marrying Stephen Bowen, not because of anything she could prove, not because of a specific incident she could point to, but because every single time she was in the same room as Stephen, she felt it, an unease she could not explain. A quiet, persistent feeling that something about this man was not right.
And, it does, look at how beautiful she was. Just gorgeous. And I think that quiet resentment sometimes, I think it's easy sometimes for us to push it away and act like we don't see it. But there's something in the mindset of some males that believe in that patriarchal, like, your woman is not supposed to upstage you. Your woman's not supposed to do better than you. She's not supposed to be the power in power couple, right? You're supposed to lead her in everything, meaning you're supposed to be more successful, more intelligent. I've seen videos of men talk about relationships where they say women are supposed to date a man who's a little bit smarter than them, a little bit more successful than them. And those insidious little thoughts, they pick away at men, right? The patriarchy is not beneficial to men or women. I've always said this. That pressure on men, it's not beneficial. And what could have very well been happening is that maybe not himself, but all the men he knows and the mindsets that they share about who wears the pants, right? Who wears the pants? Who got the bigger wallet? Who's the provider? Is he a house husband? Her career overshadows him. The little whispers that people say, the mindsets that people have in the community, in a lot of communities sometimes, where if a woman is more successful than the man, then he's less than her. All of that is a product of patriarchy. Men love to hate feminism, but feminism is not the one who says that a man is less than because she makes more money, or she's more successful, or she has a higher degree. That comes solely from the ideals and the beliefs that men share. And so I do think that her mom might have been intellectual enough to see it and feel it. And especially in these older generations, I'm sorry, Gen X and above, you guys are gonna take some. You guys are gonna take some L's for this. But there's a reason why people started calling men house husbands. Oh, the woman is a doctor or a lawyer, and she makes way more money. She's way more successful. And the whispers, and people start talking about, oh, she's taking care of him. Oh, she's the breadwinner. Oh, he don't gotta work. She makes all the money. People only do that when women are successful. But when a man's successful, they're not throwing that all around the place. They just expect that. They just, oh, that's just what a man's supposed to do. And I do think it is degrading sometimes. It definitely contributes to that, that feeling, that low feeling that some men can feel that will put you in this place where you do start to resent your woman if she's successful, if she has more money than you, if she makes more money than you, even if you never thought about it before. And these dynamics, they run deep, especially when people go and now they want to have 40-hour panels talking about it, and they want to post 1,000 shorts about how they're the breadwinner and they make more money than their husband. Like it's just ridiculous that people feel the need to even talk about how the finances are split in their household. Like if it was never a problem before, why do you care to even share with people that your wife makes more money than you? If you make more money to support whatever lifestyle that you have, why does it matter that she makes more money than you? Not to say that I want to be with somebody that I make more money than, but I'm just saying, like the whole thing, the whole even the thought that I see that as like oh damn, I'm with somebody that I make more money than him. Like damn. I'm guilty of seeing things that way sometimes too, and I have to check myself because what if one day I'm making $500,000 a year? Am I gonna look at a man who makes 160 or 200,000 and be like, oh, he's a bum? It's food for thought. These are mindsets that permeate our culture, but I do think that they are much, much more prominent in the older generations. And we're talking about a 40-year-old couple. Right? How misogynistic are his views or his peers' views? Or the people and the men who raised him? Let's continue though.
Right. She could never put it into words. But it was always there. She opposed the marriage. She made her concerns known. And Nancy, the same woman who broke barriers, who fought for her community, who never backed down from a challenge, chose to move forward anyway. Because Stephen was not just some man she had met. He was her high school sweetheart. The boy she had known and loved long before any of the titles or the recognition.
And I wanted to touch on this too. He had access to her in a way that nobody else did, right? He was her high school sweetheart. How many of us hear those stories and are like, oh my God, I wish I would have met my husband when I was an 18-year-old and we've just been together since we were. A lot of people romanticize that, right? We believe that that is a good thing, but sometimes that lack of experience, that lack of seeing anything else to know what it is that you want in a relationship, that ability of that partner that you got with while you were so different to manipulate you, to hold you hostage in a relationship, to keep you from reaching out to anyone else but your mother. Right? Sometimes that's not a good thing. And in her case, I don't think it was a good thing that he was her high school sweetheart because she didn't feel comfortable talking to anybody but her mother. And sometimes it's easy for us to brush what our parents say. I'll say it. I'll say it for those of us who sometimes can be hard-headed. Sometimes we say, oh, she don't really know what I want. I'm different. And so it might be easy to brush aside what your parent is saying because you're not getting anyone else's perspective. But you know, if you tell your friend, right, your friend is going to be like, no, dude, that's not cool. So you don't even feel comfortable enough to divulge that. And so now you're letting this abusive dynamic eat you up. She didn't feel comfortable telling anyone but her mom, which shows how this relationship, this high school sweetheart, it kept her hostage. It kept her hostage in some ways.
And when you love someone that deeply, for that long, a mother's warning, no matter how sincere, can feel like an overreaction. That is not a criticism of Nancy. That is simply what love does. It makes us believe in the version of a person we first fell for. It makes us hold on, even when the people who love us most are telling us to let go. And Nancy was human. She made the choice that millions of people make every single day.
Yeah, and you know, Lana, you make a good point here. She didn't care about any of that. She looks like she was happy being with him. Every picture with him, you can see a light in her. Like she was so happy with him. But this is the thing sometimes that you have to be very careful. Is that sometimes people's beliefs, how they were raised, where they got their information, who raised them, that's more influential than the love or appreciation that you have. Sometimes. I'm not saying it's right that he cared more about the fact that maybe she was more successful than him and what people said. I don't know if she ever threw it in his face. I don't think so. But it sounds like she never even told anybody about what they were going through and how he felt about her and her success. And I'm telling you, I know some OGs. I've heard some older black men and their mindsets, and their mindset is you are supposed to be the provider. So if your woman is making more than you and she's more successful and she's constantly ambitiously seeking more and more and more, some men take it personal. And I can't say that that's not what happened here. People talk about women get bad advice from their friends, but would this be the same ish? It definitely is. I'm telling you that these older men and their machismo, which is that's the only thing I can relate it to in another language that helps me understand it. Like it's that belief of like a man, that patriarchy, like I'm the provider. You know, I'm somebody who my parents' culture is not American. I very well experienced that. Not all the men in my family, but there's a good majority of my family that the men, that's the mindset. Like the man is the provider. He does everything. He's the household leader. So he makes the rules. He'll protect and provide, but he can cheat. He can do this. He can do that. And sometimes that mindset, that leaks into people who they don't have no business. Like he was probably okay with their life until he heard someone say something. I'm telling you. It's that little to pick away at somebody's self-esteem, especially if it was already weak. Like, let's say that she was carrying his self-esteem. Like, it's that easy. He said, my cousin tried to convince you. Try to convince you what? I'm telling you, some men will really try to push that too. That whole, oh, you got to make more money. You got to provide. If she works, then you're doing something wrong. But that pressure to take care of a family and to keep your own wife home from work, when you have infants, yes, cheaper because daycare, you guys know daycare is expensive. Anybody with kids knows that. I don't have kids, but I know that because I've worked with children. It's very expensive. I know people who have little infants, very expensive. So it's cheaper when they're young. But as they get older, it is not cheap to keep your woman home. To retire her, some families are living, they're living afloat because they got 2 401ks and 2 incomes. So that mindset, that patriarchal idea that the man is supposed to bring everything and he's the protector provider and the woman shouldn't work and he dominates everything, it's very stressful and a heavy load for men. It is. I'm not making excuses and saying they shouldn't, but I'm telling you, it's not easy. Some men aren't equipped for that, and our economy surely doesn't make it easy for men to be protectors and providers. It does not.
She chose her heart. But here's what makes mother's story not just have a feeling and stay silent. She spoke up. She tried. And even after the wedding, she kept paying attention. She kept watching. She kept listening. And eventually, Nancy started talking. Not to the public, not to her colleagues, not to the community that adored her, just to her mother. Because it wasn't just a feeling anymore. Nancy was telling her mother things she had never told anyone else. Nancy Bowen was very good at showing up. No matter what was happening at home, she showed up. She showed up for her community. She smiled for photos. She advocated for clean water for the people of Coral Springs who believed in her. And right up until the very end, her social story, a woman full of joy, surrounded by doing the work she loved. Those images are now frozen in time, the last public version of Nancy that the world will ever see. But in private, the story was different. According to her mother, Nancy had begun opening up about what was really happening inside that home. She spoke about odd behaviors, escalating pressures, a tension that had been building quietly for some time. She described signs of resentment that had no place in what looked, from the outside, like a picture-perfect marriage. These were not small complaints. These were the kinds of things a woman shares only when she has been holding them in for far too long. And because as Nancy's career grew, so did the distance between the public image of their marriage and the private reality of it. She had already been elected and re-elected. She had international recognition. She was being talked about as a future congressional candidate. For a woman who started as a local commissioner, that kind of trajectory is extraordinary. But think about what that means for the man at home. The high school sweetheart who watched his wife become someone the world was starting to pay attention to. People close to the family have hinted that resentment over Nancy's growing prominence may have played a role in what was building between them. No official motive has been confirmed, but the pattern Nancy was describing to her mother, the odd behaviors, the pressure, the tension, suggests that something in that house had been shifting for a while. Nancy saw it. She felt it.
And you know what? As I was listening, I was reading this one here, Investing Out the Blue says he was trying to tell me how to tell her to spend her money. And I think that's a really dangerous topic too, right? That I think some men, they're telling other men, like Umar was saying, for example, oh, he should only pay the light bill, or you're the man, so now you should be dominating both of you guys' money. That is crazy. You know how many issues you would have started in that relationship or that situation if you started trying to tell her how to spend her money, and she makes more money than you. I'm not trying to be rude, but do you know how that would have started issues? Now she would be coming out of her body like, damn, I make more than you. You want to tell me what to do with it? You know how people start getting disrespectful once they feel like you're trying to call them out. But it's that mindset, like that men feel like they just know better than women, period. And so if you're with a woman, then that means you know better than her in every aspect. And it's like, do these men want women to go home and fight with their women? Like, imagine if you were silly enough to go and be like, hey, babe, you got to give me 10K of what's in your savings so I can go run a bag up, and we can build a business and a life together. I'm your man. I'm your man. I'm the man. Give me your money. Like, it's like they want you guys to have conflict in your relationships. They don't want success for men in relationships. I'm telling you. They don't want success. He wanted you to go and fight with that girl so she could go and be back on the market for somebody else. Because at the end of the day, I see it like this. Let's say we come together, two people come together. You are living your lifestyle, which is nice life. You got your house, car, job, life, savings, blah, blah, blah. You're living your life. You can afford everything that you want to do. What does it matter what a woman that you're dealing with has, unless she's so broke that you got to carry her? Then, okay, maybe you son needs to start looking into finances. Otherwise, what would it matter if she's making way more, but she's just living a comfortable life and she's just humble and she's not throwing money around and trying to keep up with the Joneses and show up in the streets with, every new designer bag, outfit, everything? Why would it matter? But I think like some of these men's idea is like, let's make it our business. If a woman makes more money than me, okay, now I want to control her and her finances. Now I want to control both of our stuff because I'm the man. And that's what patriarchy and misogyny and all these ideas that I get from men tell me. And that's just crazy. I mean, that's insane. Anybody who you're with, you should not be getting to any point of talking about finances, sharing finances, unless you're getting married and you guys are getting ready to merge finances. Otherwise, I don't see why any partner should be really that involved into somebody's finances. Unless you're getting ready to merge lives, move in together, buy things together. Otherwise, you shouldn't even be talking about income like that. But it's these talking points and these weird conversations that people have online where they start feeding in these weird things. I don't know what dynamic they had, but I know for a fact this man probably wasn't comfortable with her being the more successful partner in terms of her career.
She told her mother. She just never told anyone else. To understand the full weight of what Nancy was carrying in her final months, you have to know about her brother. His name was Donovan Joshua Lee Mattier. He was a survivor of the 2018 Marjorie Stoneman Douglas High School shooting in Parkland, in Florida, one of the deadliest school shootings in American history. Donovan made it out of that building alive, but the years that followed were not kind to him. He struggled. He carried wounds that never fully healed. And just 3 months before Nancy was murdered, Donovan took his own life. 3 months. That means Nancy was actively grieving the loss of her brother, while everything else in her life was falling apart behind closed doors. She was still showing up to commission meetings, still smiling in photos, still serving her community, still planning her congressional run, all while carrying a grief that most people could not even begin to understand. And for the Mattier family, this was already a family in pain. A family that had already lost one child. A family that was still trying to find its footing. That kind of grief changes people. It can make you hold tighter to the relationships you have left. It can make it harder to walk away from a difficult situation, because losing more feels bearable. Her brother, you may have been thinking about.
Alana's like, get to it. What did her mom say? But I do think all the context is important too, because what we always talk about is the lack of empathy, right? And so while he's mad at her and her accomplishments and the successful, beautiful woman that she is, and comparing that to himself, she lost a sibling or she lost someone, right? Isn't that what they just said? She was grieving the loss of somebody. I think I missed it because she said her her brother had survived this, but she was grieving something else. So she had women, but the husband was just worried and comparing her to him, worried about what was going through. I mean, she was a beautiful woman. She had worried about what she felt and what she was going through. Blue says, I'm like, nigga, she can afford whatever she wants. That's not my problem. Blue, you should talk to your cousin, because I think that there are men out there who believe that women who have success and money, they need a man to come in and dominate and take care of all of it. And it's like, where does that even come from? Like, what if she just wants to recklessly spend money? If she got it, what's the problem? There are in certain generations of men where they believe that, oh, he took his own life. Okay, who knows what he witnessed and he saw? This is what I tell people. Like, some people think, oh, a person, he survived that mass shooting or he survived that violent act. You think that some people, just because they didn't get shot that day, just like I'm saying about the moms, you guys think that those moms are gonna go home and sleep good after if they survive all their treatments? They're not going to. They never will. They'll never sleep good. I don't care what anybody says. I wish them success and peace, but I don't believe that somebody who they have their child stolen from them by a demon like that will ever really truly know full peace like me and you go to sleep every day who hasn't lost anything. It's egregious. It's egregious what these women went through, what these kids went through in their last moments, seeing someone who they thought was supposed to love them take their life. And that boy only saw other people pass away. This is a tough case. For me, this is a tough case. Personally, I think that everything that she was going through, the fact that this selfish bastard only cared about their relationship in that dynamic is crazy.
He carried wounds that never fully healed. And just 3 months before Nancy was murdered, Donovan took his own life. 3 months. That means Nancy was actively grieving the loss of her brother, while everything else in her life was falling apart behind closed doors. She was still showing up to commission meetings, still smiling in photos, still serving her community, still planning her congressional run, all while carrying a grief that most people could not even begin to understand. And for the Matire family, this was already a family in pain. A family that had already lost one child. A family that was still trying to find its footing. That kind of grief changes people. It can make you hold tighter to the relationships you have left. It can make it harder to walk away from a difficult situation, because losing more feels unbearable. Nancy had just buried her brother. The last thing she may have been thinking about was leaving her marriage. Grief has a way of keeping people exactly where they are, even when leaving is the safest thing they could do. I have to stop here for a second and ask you something. Do you think Nancy's mother's warnings should have been taken more seriously? And what would you have done if you were in her position? Drop your thoughts in the comments. I genuinely want to know.
So I'm going to stop there for a second, because I do think that everything that was happening in her life is probably why she stayed with him. I'm going to be real with you. Mass shootings are not easy to deal with. I've never been through one, but I'm going to tell you that psychologically speaking, experiencing any type of trauma like that, even if you are not the one who gets shot or deceased, PTSD looming, first of all. Survivor's guilt. I mean, have any bit of empathy, and she was probably oozing in pain every day. She obviously was serving her community with all her might, because she still showed up to everything, despite losing her brother. Yeah, I'm telling you, Lana Love, with everything going on in her life, it was probably so easy to just stay put. It was easy, because what are you going to do now? Upend your marriage while you're grieving? No. Some people can barely deal with grieving. But you expect her to upend her marriage, her life, everything while she's grieving? She probably didn't expect that her partner would carry on with his selfishness while she lost somebody, while she's in pain. In pain about so many other things going on in life. I mean, the fact that she just lost a sibling like that, and he was just carrying on with his delusion and foolishness about the relationship. She probably wasn't even thinking about her romantic relationship with him.
It truly helps. Okay, let's keep going. The day before Nancy died, Stephen called his mother. He told her he had experienced a panic attack at work. He said he was planning to go home and speak with Nancy about it. That was all he said. His mother, who later told police she had no idea there were any serious problems in the marriage, thought nothing more of it. It sounded like a husband who had a rough day and wanted to talk to his wife. But that conversation looks very different now. Because what happened inside that home on the night of March 31st into the early hours of April 1st, 2026, was not the result of a sudden argument that got out of hand. The details that investigators found tell a very different story. They tell the story of a man who had already made up his mind. A neighbor later told police that they had seen Nancy outside around midnight, walking her dog. She was alive. She was going about her night. She had no idea what was coming. At some point after that, Stephen shot his wife 3 times with a shotgun. 3 times. But here is the detail that removes any doubt about what this was. Before he pulled that trigger, Stephen placed a pillow over the...
And let me just say this too, because the same people who don't want to talk about this because they want to say, oh, this is mental illness, this has nothing to do, we don't need to talk about relationships now, this is not the same, this is cut and dry, blah, blah, blah. How would she have known who this man could have turned out to be? Because I promise you, a lot of the times, this is the same circumstances when women are deleted by their spouses. It's situations like this. Someone they trusted, someone they've been with for years, they got multiple children by them, they feel like they have nothing else outside of that relationship. Lana Love says, so he snapped, but why? Sometimes we don't know why, though, Lana. Here's the thing, though. Sometimes he could snap because she looks beautiful and she's talking to another man. Sometimes a man can snap because she is successful and she's ambitious and she wants more out of life and she's chasing everything that she wants. And he doesn't get why. Because everything she chases, it makes him smaller in the eyes of some men. And it doesn't have to have a logical reason. This is what people don't understand sometimes. There doesn't need logic behind why somebody allows their ego to make them feel small. Every picture that she has with him, she's beaming. So either she was ignoring what she could feel, or he was really good at hiding how deeply he felt about her and how angry he was about her success. And I think it was a little bit of the both. This, by no intents and purposes, is a Dusty. Nobody's going to look at him and say, oh, she chose wrong. This was a man in her league. He was successful. He was educated. He had a career. But he just couldn't stand her light. He just couldn't. And my belief is that when men become like this, it has a lot to do with misogyny, patriarchy, the idea that people believe that a man who is with an uber successful woman is less than her. I don't even know where that comes from. Like I said personally, I feel like if a man can afford the lifestyle he wants, which let's say the man wants to be able to get up late on the weekends, go on trips, go on vacation whenever he wants, have, do karate, do Muay Thai, do whatever, and he can afford all that on his own without me or my salary, then what business do I have coming and comparing checkbooks? Now, if I'm a multi-millionaire, he's a 100,000-aire, I'm going to ask him to level up. But in no way, shape, or form should a man feel like a woman is above him just because she has higher credentials. You're with her. She loves you. To me, it looked like she adored him. But he just couldn't accept that she was who she was, an ambitious go-getter. She chased everything that she wanted and she got it. First Black, first Haitian woman to be a vice mayor of Florida, first minority, it sounds like. Maybe there was a Latin woman, but first Black woman ever to be a vice mayor of Coral Springs. It sounds like whoever she was too much for him. And honestly, that's so sad to me. It's really sad. They did say that he even had a history of violence. It was random. How would she know? Yeah. Honestly, I don't know that much about his charges. From what I had read, just off the cuff and a few articles, it didn't look like he had much. But if I'm wrong, I'll look into it a little bit more, make sure I update that info. But it didn't look like he had much either, just like the last ladies. And again, Joe McCann has no criminal history. So let's say he is the one that deleted her. How would Ashley have known?
A weapon to muffle the sound.
Well, I'll issue one correction. I do believe Joe McCann had prior family violence issues with his last wife. So that I'll issue a disclaimer for that. So Joe McCann did have prior issues with his last wife, but the last case we looked at, there was no necessarily, you couldn't really tell that he was somebody per se that would have, like Shemar Elkins, he didn't necessarily, besides that gun charge that randomly happened in 2019, he didn't necessarily have a history of violent charges per se. So maybe he knew how to act in the public, but in the home he was different. That's what it's giving for me, is that at home he was very violent. In public he knew how to compose himself.
He did not want anyone to hear. He was not acting out of rage in a moment he could not control. He thought about it. He prepared for it. He made sure no one would know. After Nancy was gone, he wrapped her body in blankets and a garbage bag and left her in the bed. And then Stephen Bowen went downstairs, and he slept in the same house with his wife's body upstairs. The next morning, he got in his car and drove to his uncle's house in Lauderdale Lakes. And when he got there, he told his uncle exactly what he had done. He said he had killed his wife. He asked his uncle to hold on to a shotgun, and when his uncle asked him why, Stephen said he simply could not take it anymore. That was it. No elaborate explanation. No remorse that anyone could see. Just 4 words. He could not take it anymore. On the morning of April 1st, 2026, Nancy Bowen did not show up. That alone was enough to alarm the people who knew her. Nancy did not miss meetings. She did not go silent. So when she failed to appear at her 8:30 a.m. charter school board meeting and then her 9 a.m. city commission meeting, people started making calls. A colleague reached out to Stephen. He was calm. He said he had texted Nancy and she was not responding. He said her car was not at home. He said he did not know where she was. Every word of it was a lie. He already knew exactly where Nancy was. He had known since the night before. But here is where Nancy's mother becomes critical to this story again. While Stephen was busy lying to colleagues, Nancy's mother made sure that the right people knew law enforcement was actively searching for her daughter. She alerted Stephen's own parents. That single action helped push the timeline forward in a way that mattered. When police first arrived at the home, no one but when they looked closer, they noticed damage on the second floor consistent with gunfire. That changed everything. Using license plate data, officers tracked Stephen to an apartment complex in Plantation. As they moved in, he was seen handing a bag, believed to contain a firearm, to another man. And when officers approached him, Stephen Bowen looked up and said, "They're here for me." Not a question, not surprise, just a statement. As if he had been waiting for that moment all morning. At 1:51 p.m., Stephen's uncle called 911 and reported everything Stephen had confessed to him earlier that day. Police forced entry into the home. They found Nancy in the second-floor bedroom, wrapped in a garbage bag and blankets, exactly where Stephen had left her. Nancy Bowen was pronounced dead at 2:24 p.m. Stephen Bowen was charged with premeditated first-degree murder and tampering with physical evidence. He pleaded not guilty. He is currently being held without bond in Broward County Jail. The case is still moving through the courts, and as more details come out, the full picture of what happened inside that home continues to come into focus. Outside Coral Springs City Hall, the community responded the only way it knew how.
And honestly, what response could he give? Like, let's be real, because what can he say? Oh, she had an attitude. Oh, you know them black women, they just got so much attitude. So leave. So leave. But it doesn't, like, outside of any crazy weird theories, nothing is coming to light. There's no cheating, there's no embarrassment, there's no confrontation or attack. She was just done with him. She might have been done with him and his shenanigans. It was like, I'm done fighting with you. And that was enough to prompt this. But otherwise, we don't know anything.
Now, flowers, candles, handwritten notes, photos of Nancy smiling. People who had never met her personally stood outside and wept because she had represented something real to them. Proof that a young black Haitian American woman could rise, lead, and matter in spaces that had never made room for her before. But behind the public grief is a child, Nancy's child, who now has to grow up without a mother, who will one day be old enough to search her name and read every detail of how she died. That is a weight no child should ever have to carry. An endowment has been established in Nancy's name to carry forward the work she started. Her legacy in public service will live on. But for the Haitian American community in South Florida, this loss comes just 3 months after losing Donovan. 2 children from the same family, gone within the same year. That is not just grief. That is devastation. Before we close, there are some things worth saying.
Yeah, that was, I think this is tragic for her family. I think they were dealing with a lot. I think it was just too much for their family right now. But I think some of these selfish men who take their spouses out for reasons that don't make a lot of sense, they don't really think about these things. All right, so the next case that we're going to talk about before I move into some of these anti-Black males online who talk about Black women a lot, I did want to talk about Dr. Serena Fairfax. And the reason why I want to talk about Dr. Serena Fairfax is because she was an accomplished woman. She married a Black man who was also somewhat accomplished. And it ended up being the worst decision of her life. Not because she was dumb and made a wrong decision, but because the person who she chose to love betrayed her. And he destroyed her and their family. And it was just sad. So Serena Fairfax, remembered by those who knew her as a devoted mother and caring dentist, was killed by her husband, former Virginia Lieutenant Governor Justin Fairfax, inside their Virginia home this week. Fairfax described herself as someone who loved to read, run trails with energetic vislas, practice Bikram yoga, travel, and spend time with her wonderful family. She leaves behind an enduring legacy of love and selflessness. Her family released a statement Friday saying this is an unimaginably difficult moment and asking for privacy as they navigate the tragedy. Our attention is on supporting one another. A dentist who took pride in her work and cared for her patients. Fairfax was a beloved and accomplished dentist, running her own thriving family dental practice, Dr. Fairfax and Associates Family Dentistry, serving the Fairfax, Virginia community. She graduated with a Bachelor of Science from Duke before obtaining her Doctoral of Dental Surgery degree from Virginia Commonwealth University of Dentistry in 2005. Graduating magna cum laude according to her practice's website. Fairfax enjoyed all fields of dentistry and focused on conservative, comprehensive dentistry. Throughout her career, she received several honors and awards, including the VCU School of Dentistry's Alumni Association Award for Outstanding Graduate of the Last Decade for her many contributions to the profession. As the clinician and alumna, Dr. Fairfax embodied the ideals of profession, dedicated to her patients, commitment to growth, and a deep sense of purpose in her work each day. I know she was a mentor, role model, and friend to many in our school. Serena really loved what she did, like she took pride in her work. Her profession was an extension of her love and care for people. Dr. Fairfax considers it an honor and a privilege to serve the community of Fairfax, Virginia. She is committed to serving not only her patients but others as well through her participation in community outreach programs. We couldn't believe it, a patient who had been in Fairfax's office just days before her murder on Thursday told CNN. She was such a lovely human being, such a warm and gentle person. Hildreth began seeing Fairfax after she and her husband moved to the area several years ago. She said Fairfax's practice was small but had a very caring staff. She was so pleased with the doctor's care, she said she referred several friends to her. It was just wonderful vibes in that whole office. A hands-on mother who once built a zip line for her 2 kids. Above all else, her divorce attorney Emma Spain said, Serena was a devoted mother to her children, who were the very center of her world. Fairfax embodied the true meaning of motherhood through her unconditional and unwavering devotion to her children, providing a constant source of love, protection, and guidance. Erin Bayolingo, a mother of 4 young children who lived next door to the Fairfax family for about 5 years, told CNN what she saw of Serena Fairfax painted a picture of a committed mother. Just seeing her interactions with her kids, the time she spent in the backyard, all the time doing stuff, she made a very welcoming backyard for her children. Fairfax was an active mom, Bayolingo said, and total DIY person when it came to building things and setting up activities for her 2 children in the backyard. She said she watched Fairfax build an above-ground pool for her children in the backyard, set up a zipline apparatus, and build chicken coops. Bayolingo says she is shocked over the murder-suicide and said, I wish I would have gotten to know her more. And regardless of who would have known her, these type of relationships become very insidious because women feel stuck in them. They don't know how to reach out to people that they know and love. And for Serena, that was no different. Among other things, she is the planner, the caretaker, the cook, the disciplinarian, and the primary nurturer. She has performed all the roles while working part-time as a dentist in a dental practice she owns, the judge wrote, calling her a port in a storm for her children. The remarkable resilience and early success in life is down to what can be best described as mother's grit, Judge added. Sim shared Fairfax had started to plan college trips for both of her children. It is an absolute tragedy that Serena was taken from her children and family, Spain said. May her memory inspire all who knew her to honor her enduring legacy of love and selflessness, which she expressed most poignantly through her motherhood. Very sad. So from 2018 to 2022, Serena Fairfax balanced her work as a dentist and a mother while serving as Virginia's second lady during her husband Justin Fairfax's tenure as lieutenant governor under Governor Ralph Northam. The couple met at Duke University and married in Arlington, Virginia in 2006 before welcoming their son in 2009 and their daughter in 2011. That daughter in 2026 would be what, 15? Yeah. In 2019, 2 women accused Justin Fairfax, then lieutenant governor, of a sexual assault. Justin Fairfax repeatedly denied the allegations and called for investigations into the accusations, saying he was confident it would clear his name. CNN could find no record of Serena Fairfax speaking publicly at the time about the allegations made against her husband and remained in the marriage. The judge's order in the couple's recent divorce proceedings described the use of troublesome language between the two, including Serena Fairfax admitting to calling her husband an idiot and a deadbeat. Was she lying though? This is what upsets me. If she's never said anything publicly and she waits until court and when they're fighting each other to call him a deadbeat, is he a deadbeat? Did she lie? She did not. The judge orders in the couple's recent proceedings describe the use of troubled language between the two, including, The judge also noted a flurry of slaps in 2019 when Serena allegedly found out Justin was an adulterer, the court said. The two separated on June 1st, 2024, while still living in the same house, and entered a post-nuptial agreement on December 14th, 2024. There is no expectation or hope of reconciliation between the parties, Serena Fairfax's divorce filing stated. She alleged Justin has not complied with the post-nuptial agreement in any form since its execution, and does not make any financial contributions to support the wife and their children. So Serena Fairfax has asked the court to award joint legal custody, with the children primarily residing with her, while Justin Fairfax would have a visitation schedule, according to the filing. So she was a married single mother, unfortunately. And I'm just saying that because the reality is that she was raising these kids by herself. He was not present. And the little that he was present was not present. It's so sad. It is. It is very sad. All right. So I want to continue. And I just wanted to end off, and we're going to talk about how some of these figures online who want to talk about Black women, how they talk about Black women, and especially Black women in the community, their attitudes, empathy towards Black women, they just don't have any. And since Anton decided to get his fat legume head self ass up to talk about this case, I decided that I wanted to review some of what he said. Now, instead of giving him any more light, and because the video is already at 3 hours and 21 minutes, I'm going to send you guys off. And I will be back tonight to talk about some girl talk. It's Tuesday, and we'll have some girl talk because I am so tired of some of the stuff I've been seeing. Some of the stuff I've been seeing has been very disturbing, embarrassing, and we understand that how these bandits talk online about Black women is a major problem. It's a major issue. But the only way we're going to shift away from that is by giving attention to other topics and also by calling it out when men do it. And so that's what I'm going to try to do a lot more of, is drag these bandits when they talk about Black women, the community, why relationships don't work between them and Black women, etc. So I'm going to send you guys off with some music, and I'll see you guys tonight with another show about love, relationships, marriage, and if it's really all worth it in 2026. So do me a favor, guys, while you're here, if you're in and out, hit the like button, subscribe, share, leave a comment, engage with the show, give me your content ideas, all of that. I'll appreciate it. And I'll see you on the next one. Bye.
Slick shades on, leather coat tight, moving through shadows under neon light. Whisper clues in the velvet air. Every step's a rhythm, every glance a dare. Cold case files in a gold-plated ride. Smoke rings rise as the truth unties. Diamonds and dust, we follow the trail. Silk tie justice never fair. Midnight smooths in a hip-hop haze. Solving the game in a smooth R&B maze. No crowd too slick, no clue too small. We catch them all with a swipe protocol. Eyes like scanners, cuts like silk. Breathe the streets like a glass of milk. Fingerprints hung in a baseline low. Every suspect's got a place to go. Dance floors with his bartender, no secrets spill where the jasmine blow. Money talks, but the cups don't lie. Another case filed under the sky. Midnight's losing a hip-hop haze. Solving a game in a smooth R&B maze. No crown too slick, no clue too